official which left El-Kheer furious. Well, Dana White joins me now. Dana, welcome back to Uncensored.
Good to see you, buddy.
There's been a lot of pussy talk this week, Dana. You called El-Kheer a pussy. He's responded to the pussy claim by saying he kind of takes it as a compliment because you're talking about it. Explain why you think he's a massive pussy.
I'm talking about it. This guy hasn't shut up since the day I got into this
Here we
sport.
go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is great.
You know, I liked him, and I mean, that's just it's been absolutely crazy. I'm talking about it. This guy hasn't shut up since the day I got into the sport.
He said he hasn't shut up about me until since I got into the sport. What's up, Kyrie? Shout out to Connor Connor Sillers. Victory, shout out to you. Let me read your comment up top. Wait, who's this? Banana Man GT. Hello, Banana Man. What an interesting name. You must like bananas. That must be your favorite fruit. If not, let me know. But also let me know what part of the world you are from, my man. Here we go. Victory says they've done a good job of keeping this card a secret. I feel like no one really knows yet. Correct. Part of the reason why this card is a secret, you have to remember, there is a Secret Service component and national security component to this card, right? Because this isn't just any normal American city card or any normal Abu Dhabi or British card in the Tottenham Stadium or Wembley Stadium or O2 Arena or even the Manchester, I don't know which arena they have the fights in Manchester, but certainly not the Etihad Stadium with Manchester City. By the way, check out on my description down below, right? I am now sponsored by none other than Matchroom. I'm sorry, not Matchroom. Sorry, Manchester City. By the way, my favorite soccer team in the whole entire world. Okay, so you get yourself a nice blue jersey, right? Representing the gang, and all of that. The ADD gang, as they say. You know what I mean? So shout outs to Mark Haney. Shout outs to Marty Miller for, putting me on that idea of ADD gang. But for now, before the shirts of ADD gang, we got the Manchester City gang. My favorite soccer team in the world. And guess what? Manchester City is also Tom Aspinall's favorite soccer team because he comes from the Manchester area. So it's only right to represent my favorite team, represent the baddest man in the world. Well, depending on who you ask, if he really is the baddest man in the world or not. I know a lot of you are going to say that he's not the baddest man in the world because he can't even take an eye poke, for crying out loud. Meanwhile, you got Costa right here taking an eye poke from his own teammate, Tom Aspinall, only to come back and whoop ass in ways that Tom Aspinall could not. So is he really the baddest man in the world? Well, we're about to find out. I'll tell you who thinks he's the baddest man in the world. None other than Eddie Hearn, okay? The son of Barry Hearn, the heir to the Matchroom Kingdom, okay? And he has now signed Tom Aspinall to a talent agency contract. So what exactly does that mean? I told you guys in the last stream that it's not exactly Eddie Hearn that's going to talk to Hunter Campbell, right? Matchroom Sports has their own lawyers while Eddie does what he does. And keep in mind, also Matchroom is not like the UFC or Zuffa or the Saudi government. They are literally a family-owned company, which makes it interesting nonetheless. So here's an interesting take by Marty right here. He says, I think Poirier will be on it. That's very interesting. That is very interesting. Makes sense. American, right? American fighter. That makes sense. Conor McGregor as a possible opponent. That makes sense. Obviously, they still have some underlining beef going on. If you remember, Conor McGregor got his legs blown out by Dustin Poirier, only in the defiance of Conor McGregor to say, your wife is in me DMs, mate. Your wife is in me DMs. Now, that is what's crazy about Conor McGregor, right? I have never met a guy that can take a beating and at the same time have the audacity, okay, to go at somebody else's family member when that guy just whooped your butt. I've never seen anything like that the history of real fighting. Obviously, this is something that you see in professional wrestling, right? Ric Flair, during his career, obviously, when he got his butt whooped, guess what happened? He would talk smack to the opponents again and again and again, right? And that's just what great heels do, not only in the world of professional wrestling, but also in the real world of combat sports. Okay, so there is a good chance, yes, that would be exciting, but you never know. Connor says, what's up? Hi, how are you, Connor? And he says, I sure hope not, Connor, LOL. Well, they're definitely not going to put Conor McGregor on the White House, right? Obviously, the last video that I've done, by the way, I haven't done a video in a month now because I've just been really red hot with the live streams, but I think at some point I'm probably going to go back to doing videos and live streams at the same time. I mean, I'm always going to do live streams, right? Live streams are the bread and butter of this channel, and I'm going to continue to harness that in the best way that I can. But on any regard, he says it would be a banger as well. Okay, and what fight is that? He says that's the fight. They've had beef for years. Now, oh yeah, and Poirier versus Colby is a great call. Okay, that's a great one as well. Same Poirier versus Colby would be sick too. Okay, so that makes more sense. Okay, obviously you're talking about two American fighters, right? You don't have to necessarily sacrifice an American fighter, you know, to lose to, let's say, a foreigner, you know, especially in America's 250th birthday. But then again, you also have to remember, America is also hosting the World Cup, okay? The biggest event in soccer's history, right? It literally involves the whole entire world, right? So all the soccer players that are playing in top clubs are going to be playing for their national team. So there's a lot of national pride that goes along with it. And it is America's home field advantage because you are going to be playing in America. Now look, Americans tend to get their asses kicked a lot in the world of soccer, right? But guess what? In this year, we have the home field advantage for whatever that's worth, right? Maybe a lot of players are going to be demoralized coming to the United States because what a lot of you don't know is that the United States right now is not very popular for a lot of people around the world. And the reason for that is obviously because of the fact that, well, let's be honest, there's a lot of political contention that is going on in the world right now. And if you can just get out of your MMA right-wing bubble for a second, you will realize that a lot of people out there are really not happy with the United States as a result of that. So the reason why they're not happy with the United States, obviously, is because of the political decisions made by our leaders. And you got to ask, how will that bleed over into the sports world? For example, what if, let's say, Lionel Messi decides, you know what, I'm not going to play this year. I'm going to sit this one out. You know, you and the rest of the Argentinian national team can go in there and try and win it yourselves. I'm not going to go in there and do it. I've already won a World Cup already. I've already won titles in, you know, in multiple leagues. I don't need to go in there and play. You guys can go ahead and win because maybe, and I don't know, I'm obviously speaking in a hypothetical scenario, right? I don't know exactly the political beliefs of Lionel Messi to really understand if that is a motivating factor of him doing that, or even a slight bit of hint that he would do that. However, what I will say is that, yes, a lot of players will have some kind of reservations because, let's be honest about it, right? A lot of soccer players have a very international mind when it comes to, let's say, the political ethos that is antiquatedly opposite that of the United States. For example, you take a look at Ronaldo. Ronaldo, for a long time, has been a long supporter of the Palestinian cause over the Israeli cause. Whereas with the American right-wing apparatus seems to be really tied into, let's say, the Jewish and the lobbies of Israel and things of that nature, right? So you have a different political spectrum in this country, and you got to wonder how will that affect the overall morale of players coming to play here. Also, the Olympics is also taking place in America, in Los Angeles, and as a result of that, what exactly does that mean? Well, what that means is now you have three big major events going on in the United States in the same year. By the way, on the same year that the United States started a war with the world. So guess what? We are now in a very interesting situation right now. Jelly asks, what is the topic? Well, the topic today is Tom Aspinall. In about 1 hour and 30 minutes from now, he will do a press conference with Eddie Hearn in regards to his signing of Matchroom talent. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to react to that live and in real time to see exactly what Tom Aspinall had to say and what Eddie Hearn has to say. And we're also going to react to what Dana White had to say to Piers Morgan. Now, last night, obviously, the news broke at least a couple of hours before I had went on live stream talking about it. And I decided I was going to go in, do a reaction to it. But I didn't really have enough time to go through the whole video with Piers Morgan and Dana White. I know they're going to have some interesting conversations to come with that while we await for the Tom Aspinall press conference live in London, okay? And by the way, I put on the location on the description below in London. I'm not in London. I'm still obviously in California, but I wanted to put that there because that is where that press conference is taking place, so I figured I'd do it like that. So while we're doing that, we're also going to react to what are the possible matchups. Now, if you take a look at the section, the comment section right now, they talk about multitudes of different fights that are going on. Some are speculating what if Poirier, maybe Colby Covington, or maybe Bo Nickel and Colby Covington, or maybe Dustin Poirier or Colby Covington, because just like Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, Colby Covington has beef going on with Dustin Poirier, and you better believe that's going to make a very interesting fight if that is the case. One thing that we do know that's a shoe-in, we know that Alex Pereira is definitely in the mix. We know that he's in the mix to fight, right? Because obviously, with the recent announcement of the light heavyweight title being put on the line, it is indicative that obviously Alex Pereira is going to be going for a third championship belt. Now, the question is it going to be for an interim belt or an undisputed belt? And that is where Tom Aspinall sort of ties into all of this, right? And when we watch this press conference, this Matchroom press conference today that I'm going to react live with you guys, we can speculate and wonder, well, is it going to be Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira? Or is it going to be John Jones versus Alex Pereira? Or maybe it's not going to be Alex Pereira in the mix at all. Maybe perhaps he's just going to be put in the back seat as to say, you let these guys fight and we will see what will happen. And then he says, Bo Nickel versus Joe Pfeiffer. I don't believe that. I believe that Joe Pfeiffer is busy with a matchup with Israel Adesanya coming up. So that may not be a possibility. Although if Joe Pfeiffer happens to get an impressive knockout against Israel Adesanya, I would imagine they would probably try to match something like that, right? But then at that point, if Joe Pfeiffer was to put the lights out of Israel Adesanya, what good is it of him to take on Bo Nickel if at that time Bo Nickel will most likely be a lower ranked fighter? Victory says 3 was pretty rough. 3 was pretty rough, huh? 3 was pretty rough. What do you mean 3 was pretty rough? Which 3 it is? And then he also mentioned O'Malley versus Sanhagen should be on it. Well, how about O'Malley versus Peter Yan for a rematch? And let me tell you why that is a possibility. Obviously, part of the matchmaking would probably involve Donald Trump. I'm sure he would like to have an American get in there. I'm sure that an American winning a world title in the White House would probably do some good for the morale of America. Connor says Bo versus Sharaputin. That's a good one. That's actually a good one. I would like to put that. Okay, when you said 3 was rough, okay, you were talking about Chuck versus Tito, and 4 is the main event. Okay, I'm saying third. Oh, okay, yes. Okay, that I got you. I remember that fight. He says Shara can't fight in the USA, huh? Why not? Is there any travel restrictions he has going on that we don't know about? Well, if Khamzat is allowed to fight in the United States, then I don't know who can't fight in the United States. I mean, if you're friends with Ramzan Kadyrov, obviously somebody that is not necessarily friendly to the American interest abroad and domestically and geopolitically. So I don't know if that would. I don't know if Shara is that severe in his case or in his life trajectory that the U.S. would not allow him to fight here, right? I mean, he has fought here multiple times. Where was that MVP fight he had? Was that in Abu Dhabi or was that in the United States? He says he can't get sanctioned. Oh, because of his eye. Okay, not because of any political reasons. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah, okay. Oh, man. All right. That makes perfect sense. Okay, makes sense. Okay. All right. So, yeah, he can't fight because of the one eye. Okay, right. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So let's get up to these comments right now. Okay, Pfeiffer versus Bo Nickel. What is the topic? Okay, O'Malley. Brad Pitbull says July 4th, 2026 is going to be wild. Okay, so correction, my fellow Sacramento man. It's not going to be on July 4th. It's going to be on Donald Trump's birthday, weeks prior to that. Right? So they're not going to put it on July 4th. It would have been perfect if you think about it. July 4th falls on a Saturday. I looked it up on a calendar. It falls on a Saturday, right? You're never going to get a July 4th that's going to fall on a Saturday for a couple of years now, right? I don't know why they didn't just pull the trigger on that. I suppose there's a lot of security measures that they have to accommodate, so that has something to do with it as well. Okay, so speaking of which, somebody said, what if the boys in the Middle East, and I'm not talking about what do you call it? I'm not talking about, let's say, those people in the Middle East that are the minority religion, let's say, right? What if they were to pull off a false flag operation while the fights are going on, right? That's a possibility. So with that in mind, I tell you what, during the UFC White House card, I'm probably not going to go there. If I was to ever get, let's say, a press pass of any kind, I definitely would not go there, right? It would be an extremely dangerous situation and a situation I would not want to be a part of because, man, it's very, very uncertain. Yeah, very uncertain. So you never know. All right, let's see here. Okay. Oh, okay. Wait. I gotta put up the thumbnail. Sorry, I did not put up a thumbnail yet. Okay, let's play this video with Dana White and Pierce Morgan.
The reason I'm actually, listen, and Eddie said, "Oh, this is great. I look forward to competing with him." And there's a lot of things he doesn't know about boxing that he's going to learn the hard way. And Eddie, I've been in this business for 30 years, and the whole Conor Ben thing. Apparently, they're supposed to be really close, and Eddie's supposed to be hurt by this and all this stuff. Eddie Hearn and his father are incredibly wealthy and will be for the rest of their lives. Conor, who they care about, is going to make some good money for him and his family. He should be happy for him if they're that friendly and that close, or he should have matched the deal, which he could have done. He obviously has the money, and he could have matched or beat it.
See, that's sort of the nub of this, isn't it? Because you and His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh from Salah, who I know well, you've come storming into boxing. You've grabbed it by the horns. And in the UK in particular, Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, with their different companies, are used to kind of being quite dominant there. Eddie, I think his position would be, I've known him a long time, is that he nurtured Conor Ben, but it wasn't that hurt him. It's that when Conor Ben was going through his big drug scandal problem, which ultimately he came through, of course, but when he was going through it and everyone else was tossing him on the bonfire and throwing him to the wolves, Eddie stood by him, and he felt that when it came to him defecting to you, he didn't really even give him the courtesy of a phone call. As somebody who's had to manage your own roster of people, could you understand why, if you stand by somebody who goes through a really tough time, it's that's the betrayal, not just someone moving management?
Yeah, it happens. I wouldn't confuse business with the personal relationship either.
Dana White never misses a beat on that, and exactly what he just said right now. I told you guys about the Matt Mitrione story. Matt Mitrione sees him at the club after Matt Mitrione signs with Bellator. Matt Mitrione gives him the finger. Dana White's dumbfounded, like, what is this big dumb idiot doing giving me the finger? He said, come here, Matt. And so Matt goes over to Matt Mitrione. Dana White shakes his hand and he says, listen, bro, congratulations. You beat the game. And Matt Mitrione is just dumbfounded by all of this. And he's like, wait, you're not mad? He's like, no. Dana White said, no, I'm not mad. Why am I going to be mad? You beat the game. These were his exact words to Matt Mitrione at the club. You beat the game. So there it is. He beat the game, meaning that he got a better deal from Bellator, to which the UFC could not match. And so there was no hard feelings towards it. They partied that night. They hung out that night like nothing absolutely happened. And that's what it is.
When we signed Jai Opetaia, who's fighting this weekend for us, Eddie came out and said, you know what, he never sold anything anyway. I couldn't sell anything with Jai. Oh, Jai's job is, your job is to sell. So when you...
That is hilarious. He said that about Jai Opetaia. Can you believe that? Eddie Hearn. He said, well, you know what? You know, he couldn't really sell tickets anyway. You know, so fine, you could have him. You know, he's a world champion. But you know what? You know, he couldn't sell any tickets. So therefore, you can have him. Off you go, yeah, Jai. Off you go. Off you go, lad. Just like that, right? Like, now he's all of a sudden trashing him. Whereas, man, with Eddie, if you're with Eddie, oh my goodness, he makes you look like you're the greatest boxer in the world. He had me believe that Anthony Joshua was going to retire undefeated, okay? That's how good of a promoter and, well, quite frankly, how good of a liar Eddie Hearn is, right? He really made me believe that. And then a whole bunch of other UK hype jobs that he had going on in his stable over the years, you know, I really believed, like, wow, you know what, man, Eddie Hearn, you know, has it going on, right? Yeah, man, he definitely knows how to promote a fighter, but he also knows how to trash a fighter depending on what side of the fence you are on with him.
You sign a guy, his job is to be a badass. Your job is to figure out how to make him and you as much money as you possibly can.
And that was one of the problems that Terrence Crawford had going on when he was with Top Rank. When Terrence Crawford was with Top Rank, one of the biggest problems that Bob Arum had was, I can't sell tickets with Terrence Crawford. I'm going to have to let you go. And it ruined his career for a couple of years. He wasn't able to get a fight until the Errol Spence fight, and then eventually he got the Canelo fight. So there it is.
Important announcement for individuals.
Are there any rules in the fight game from your perspective? I mean, is there any like gentleman's code between you all? And is the kind of stuff we've seen between you and Eddie this week, is that all part of the theatre, if you're honest, Dana?
Yeah, if there's a guy under contract, you don't mess with him. When contracts are up and somebody has the right to negotiate, all's fair.
The reports are that you offered Conor Benn $15 million for one fight. Can you confirm that?
I cannot.
Because it's not true, or because you don't want to talk about it?
Yeah, Eddie Hearn.
He doesn't want to talk about it. Obviously, he wants to keep a little bit of some secret towards the contract negotiations going on with Conor Benn. I would imagine $15 million is not for one fight. I mean, you're talking about Regis Progress fight, right? In the Netflix card with Tyson Fury and Makhmudov. I mean, that's not necessarily $15 million that you're going to get on a ROI. But who knows? Who knows what his reasoning is behind that?
Hearn had him under contract. And Eddie Hearn, when his contract was up, Eddie Hearn has the right to match and has the right to negotiate for his fighter. He could have.
Now, how ironic is that, right? Matchroom could not match. You understand? Matchroom could not match.
He could have kept him if he wanted to.
In terms of the way you guys
hey, so you got all these guys that are talking smack. I didn't say anything. I sat back and we're getting into the game. I'm gonna, build it from the ground up. I'm gonna, I'm not going after like Usyk and, all these type of guys. I'm gonna go after the up and coming stars. This is what I like, building things from the ground up. And that was what I said. I don't know if everybody took that as, that's all I would do or whatever it was. So Oscar did.
You know what? There was some reports. Now, obviously, maybe it came out sort of fake news of some sort that Usyk did sign with Zuffa Boxing, but obviously no one made a big fuss about it, and with good reason. It was fake news. So
Oscar De La Hoya is suing his fighters to try to make them stay with him. You know you're running a bad business when you're suing your people to stay with you. And listen, anybody who ever gets into business and says that they want to compete, I don't take anybody lightly, and I don't overlook anybody. And all of these guys apparently felt that way about me. They underestimated me, or I don't know. And here we are.
Well, for viewers who've not been following Pussygate this week, I just want to...
Oh my goodness. What did you call it? He called it what? Hold on. What did Piers Morgan just call this real quick? Okay, Piers, what did you call this again?
Well, for viewers who've not been following Pussygate this week, I just want to play what you said about Eddie first. In following Pussygate this week.
And here we are.
Well, for viewers who've not been following Pussygate this week.
And here we are.
Well, for viewers who've not been following Pussygate this week.
Play it again.
Well, for viewers who've not been following Pussygate this week.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Well, for viewers who've not been following Pussygate this week, I just want to play what you said about Eddie first, and then what he said in his response. So let's take a look.
Well, I think you saw this week, I am really beating up babies. Is there a bigger pussy than Eddie Hearn?
He was quite upset that Conor Benn left him.
Is there a bigger pussy than Eddie Hearn? This guy's supposed to be your friend. You're fucking crying. He made more money. He's going to make more money, and he had the right to match it.
Victory says, what's the motivation for guys like Dana White to keep going after they have more money than they can ever spend? Popularity or power? Popularity or power. I don't think Dana White is going to get any more popular than this. I mean, obviously, it just really is incumbent upon how popular the sport is. Power, well, it depends what kind of power you're looking for. Right now, when it comes to combat sports, I think he has all the power in the world. He can literally make fights in boxing and MMA to his own pleasure, to his own liking, to his own discretion. However, he doesn't have power in the political world. Does he even want that, though? Does he even care? Does he even care enough to wish to run for political power? Because that is the next step for Dana White. Or is he just comfortable with the popularity and the power that he has for boxing and MMA? And I think that it is the latter. I think that he is comfortable enough to where he's at. What I think his number one motivation right now is passion. The fact that he's always been a hardcore fan. Whether he was broke or whether he was rich, whether he was the president of the UFC or whether he was Mayweather's bellboy, which is crazy to say that it actually happened, that he was that guy at some point of his life. Literally, Floyd Mayweather's bellboy. But, well, now, I think his only motivation is pure enthusiasm as a fan. That's the best way to put it.
He could have matched it.
I think he said he tried and Conor Benn wouldn't return his calls.
What a crock of shit. Yeah. We're literally beating up babies.
We're literally beating up babies.
Yeah. Yeah. We're literally beating up babies. Yeah. literally beating up babies. Fucking shit. Yeah. We're literally beating up babies. Shit. Yeah. We're literally beating up babies.
And then here's another one. Here's Dana White explaining how he performs child abuse.
Shit. Yeah. We're literally beating up babies. Yeah.
I don't look at Dana
Babies.
White. There's nothing.
Okay, oh, here's Eddie
It's not
Hearn.
like, he comes out of the press. That surprised me, right? Eddie Hearn, have you ever known a big pussy? I'm like, fucking hell. I mean, firstly, this is so good for me. Like, you're sitting at your UFC press conference and you're talking about me, right? So,
Yo, he's right. He's absolutely right. Yo, you know what? Yo, beautiful self-awareness of Eddie Hearn, right? He said, do you realize you're talking about me at a UFC event? You know, most UFC guys don't even know who Eddie Hearn is. Wait, what? Hey, he's calling him a pussy? Who is this Eddie Hearn guy? Hey, let's go find him. Next thing you know, they get on his Instagram, they get on, the little keyboard warrior thing going on, like what a lot of you do here in this chat. They're like, yeah, F you, Eddie Hearn. Yeah, we're going to come after you. Yeah, you're no good, Eddie Hearn. Yeah, Dana White is right. You are the P word. Even though I don't know you and I don't know you from a can of paint and I never watched a boxing match in the UK ever in my life, but since Dana White mentioned your name, yeah, you are the P word. Woo! Go Dana White. Right? So that's great promotion for him. He says, do you play UFC 5? Sure.
in terms of me building a profile and a brand in the US, this is golden. The more they talk about me, the better. But I don't go away from that game.
If you were sexually abused while at school
What the hell?
or school activity as a child, you may...
I hate these commercials. Damn, I hate these commercials. Okay.
I can't believe he called me a pussy.
So you're helping his career, he's saying, in America, Dana.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how his career is being helped in America. Yeah, I'll tell you what. You and I will obviously talk again in the future. When we talk a year from now, let's see how well his brand's looking in America.
I mean, are you...
Look, I think that Eddie Hearn's brand is pretty good in America right now, right? Considering the fact that, okay, let's take a look at the staple he has, right? I know that he has Jerron Boots Ennis. Now, for those of you that don't know boxing, obviously, Jerron Boots Ennis is a big prospect right now. Not only a prospect, a big contender. Matchroom stable. Okay, a Philadelphia boxer is one of Eddie Hearn's big promotional stars right now. So let's see here. Who is in the stable of Eddie Hearn right now? Okay, oh, there it is. See, look at this. Active World Champions. That is literally the first guy that they mention in here, which is Jerron Boots Ennis. Shakur Stevenson is also part of Matchroom, so that's interesting. Eduardo Sugar Nunez, don't know him. Dalton Smith, I do sort of know him, but a lot of you that don't know boxing, you don't know these people. Sky Nicholson, I believe that is the Australian boxer that had an affair with Conor McGregor. He says, who is your favorite fighter in the UFC? I don't really have one, to be quite honest with you. Maybe Khamzat is my favorite fighter, or Islam Makhachev. Yeah, probably just one of the Muslim guys. Okay, so rising talent he has going on, obviously Ben Whitaker, right? That's a major name in the staple of Matchroom. Tom Aspinall, right? And then he mentioned right here, Tom Aspinall signed a newly established Matchroom talent agency in March 2026 for commercial and advisory representation. Okay, so that's an important part that you have to understand about this, right? Tom Aspinall is only signing for an advisory representation. You are allowed to have a manager of your own choosing. It just so happens that the manager of Tom Aspinall is a guy that is in sort of opposite ends with Dana White.
Guys, Frank Warren, obviously, full disclosure, another long-time friend of mine. I've known him a long time, Frank. He says he's considering legal action against you and your company TKO and against Seller, Turkey Al Sheikh's company. What is your reaction to that potential legal action? And on a sort of wider scale, is your mission, if you're honest, to wipe these guys out? Do you want to completely dominate world boxing in a way that doesn't leave room for people like Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn to operate in the way that they used to?
Let me ask you a question. And I like the Warrens. You haven't heard me say anything about them. Always been nice guys. Anytime I've ever, dealt with them, they haven't come out and really said anything. Sue me. Sue me for what? I mean, I'm in the business just like they're in the business. What have I done other than compete to be sued?
Look, I could understand why Dana is dumbfounded by all of this, right? The reason why he's dumbfounded by all of this is because this is on brand for Frank Warren to sue people. Okay, let's take a look at the history of Frank Warren suing people, okay? Because there's a long list of people that he's sued from, not only just fighters, right, with contract disputes that he has had going on, but also journalists. He's sued journalists for just speaking bad on his brand. Frank Warren lawsuits. Frank Warren lawsuits over the years. Okay, so let's take a look at the lawsuits he's had going on. So let's start from 2026 and work our way down, okay? Because it's quite a list. All right. Number 1, 2026, okay? $1 billion lawsuit against Sella and TKO Group, February 2026. Warren's Queensberry Promotions has filed a massive $1 billion lawsuit against the Saudi-backed Sella and TKO Group Holdings, okay, parent of UFC and the WWE. Warren alleges they breached exclusivity agreements by launching Zuffa Boxing without his involvement, claiming the move froze him out of boxing's future in Saudi Arabia. Okay. And then you go back to 2024 and 2025. There was a defamation case with Chris Eubank Jr. Warren sued Chris Eubank for slander and libel after a fighter called him a scumbag and accused him of lying and cheating during a high-profile press conference. So the two had settled the matter amicably in 2025 of May following a court's urging. Okay? He says, are you an atheist or a Muslim? Man, I am far from an atheist, so I am definitely a Muslim, my man. But yeah, let me know, what you are and, and what you stand for if you wish to reveal that. Breach of contract, 2016 with Chris Eubank again. Warren previously won a six-figure sum from Eubank Jr. after the fighter pulled out of the bout against Tommy Langford. The High Court ruled Eubank had signed a valid contract and ordered him to pay damages. Okay. Now here's one that I sort of know about right here. Ricky Burns versus Frank Warren, 2014. All right. Warren sued the former world champion Ricky Burns for 1.8 million pounds after Burns left him to join Matchroom Boxing. Sound familiar? The judge rejected Warren's main claim for the loss of earnings, but did award him $72,000 in unpaid commissions. Okay, so he got something out of it, 72,000 pounds out of unpaid commissions. Okay, Burns won a counterclaim for unpaid purse money through Warren's company was at a liquidation at the time. So the list goes on. Don King in 1998 and also Terry Marsh trial in 1989 and 1990. So he says, do you stand on the previous scriptures, Quran? He says, "Oh, you people of the book, you have nothing to stand unless you absorb the Torah, the gospel that has been revealed to you before him." Yeah, sure. Okay. All right, let's go back to MMA. I'm sorry, Pierce Morgan.
Haven't messed with any of their fighters that are under contract or tried to steal anybody or do anything like that, and we won't to any of the promoters. I'm in here to compete. I mean, all the sanctioning organizations are going crazy. Eddie Hearn absolutely lost his mind. You know, the Warrens haven't said anything, and you know, but they're talking about legal action. You know, I don't know what they have, you know, think they have with Turkey Al-Sheikh. You know, that's their relationship, but I don't know what I have done to the Warrens that they think I should be sued, other than compete.
What do you feel, Dave? Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, on a big picture scale, some boxing purists, and it may be that they're slightly dinosaur in this thinking, but they look at the kind of fights that are coming along which are generating the really big money, whether it involves Jake Paul and Mike Tyson or Floyd Mayweather getting back in with Manny Pacquiao, whatever it may be. And they say, look, these aren't real fights. These are like entertainment bouts, purely for entertainment. And because they make such big money, there are going to be more and more of them, and that the purity of actual boxing gets diminished along the way. And the parallel they use is that you wouldn't do this in UFC, for example. UFC has got a purity about it, where when you put on a UFC night, you want the best of the best competing at the elite level. You wouldn't have a bunch of, you know, older guys in the mix. What do you say to that?
I agree with that. I would be one of those guys that agrees with that. But that type of stuff is always going to happen. If you find two guys that, you know, are famous and want to fight each other, you know, there's always going to be an interest in that. But that's not what I do. What I do is I put the absolute best versus the best against each other every weekend. Literally every weekend I do it. So that's what I'm bringing back to boxing, is that these guys, almost everybody's undefeated in the sport, right? Because they're not fighting anybody. The best will fight the best. I mean, I've only done 3 shows, and I don't know off the top of my head, but a lot of undefeated kids have already fought each other in Zuffa boxing. And I am one of those boxing purists, so I would agree with that.
Guys, Blue Chew Gold is the...
All right, hold on a second here.
Kind of influencers who are trying the fight game. I mean, he's got better, but do you think he's an asset to the sport or not?
Well, listen, Jake Paul is doing his thing. He's, you know, guy's obviously made a lot of money, and you know, people have been interested in it, and he plays the heel perfectly. You know, even if you hate what he's doing and you hate all the stuff about him, you hate him so bad that you're tuning in to see him get knocked out. So he's played the thing the right way, and I'll tell you this. He got hit. If you look at what AJ did to Francis and Gagne, right? And the Jake, it was a terrible fight. And you know, he kept trying to tackle him. He did everything he could to avoid a fight. But once he got hit with that shot and he went down, broke his jaw, AJ didn't knock him out. He definitely didn't knock him out the way he knocked Francis out. So if I give Jake Paul any credit, I'll give him that, and that he's, you know, he's built himself a business and he's made a lot of money.
And will you watch Mayweather-Pacquiao, the rematch?
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that depends on. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I have to be home on Saturday to see this. If I'm home, I'd probably watch it. Yeah, and that's the thing with those type of fights. If you're not doing anything, you're not going to go out of your way to try to stay home to watch it. But if you're home, you're definitely going to watch it.
Who do you want at Zuffa that you don't currently have? Who's on your wish list?
Listen, my thing is right now in this building phase is I want.
Hey, listen, young apologists, I'd like to not apologize to you and you know, not really talk to you about scripture or, you know, this, that, or the other. I mean, look, we could do that at some other time. We're not going to do that right now, okay? If you want to do that, go build your own show and talk about it there. And then maybe you can invite me once you build your show up and, you know, build your own audience and algorithm towards your side.
All the best up-and-coming guys and people that we believe can be world champions someday. No different than, understand this, right? When I built the UFC, I took everything that I loved about boxing and everything that I hated about boxing in building this business. So, and look how well it's worked. So how well do you think it's going to work for boxing?
Yeah, as you know, I've said it to your face before, but I'm a massive admirer of the whole UFC business you built. And I remember the early days, how you were mocked and reviled for it. People didn't think it would ever last. And here you are with this multi-billion-dollar brand that is incredibly popular. And when you watch it, you know you're watching supreme athletes at the peak of their game. As a sports fan of any sport, that's what I love to watch. You know, I watch the recent Winter Olympics once every 4 years if I believe I'm watching the best skiers in the world, right? I don't think I'd watch two have-beens get it on a mountain side. So I think like that as a sports fan.
I agree. I do too. You know, and you know, when you have the best versus the best, you know, people know it, people feel it, and when you get the right fight in the right place at the right time, everybody wants to watch it. Think about this. So when I got into this, you were just saying about the business. When I got into this, everybody was telling me this will never work. You know, nobody's going to ever care about UFC. You'll never be bigger than boxing. You'll never get Saturday nights because boxing owns Saturday nights. Well, here we are, and now I'm getting...
And now it is the UFC that owns Saturday nights, okay? Tom Aspinall did have his press conference. It was only 5 minutes. It was like a short 5-minute signing. Or no, I don't think it's happened yet. When is his, hold on a second here. When is his press conference here? Let's see here. What time is his press conference here? Okay, so, all right, so this has already passed then. Okay, so it was supposed to be 6 a.m. Yeah, okay, so 6 a.m. It wasn't okay, so maybe it was that. It was just, you know, basically a signing of some sort, right? Okay, so I think that's all it was just a signing. Okay, and then you had the UFC press conference yesterday. We're going to react to that as well.
In the boxing.
You've become staggeringly rich, Dana. I mean that as a compliment. And you gave a fascinating interview in the street recently to a random guy that just stopped you and asked you about kind of life lessons. It was really interesting because you talked about that you had some of the happiest moments of your life when you were broke, when you had nothing. And yet, whenever I've met you or interviewed you, and it's a number of times, Tom, I see it as a great honor to talk to you because I think you're one of the significant figures in world
Look,
sport.
I want to address that part, right? I think that's interesting to address right there. Look, for those of you that have it going on or understand what it's like to have, you know, a little bit of, you know, this and that in your pockets, you understand that when you were once broke, okay, that was one of the most memorable parts of your life, okay? One of the most memorable parts of your life. The most memorable parts of your life is not when you reach the top, it's when you're going to the top. You take a look at Rocky. What are some of the most memorable moments you remember in Rocky's life, even though he's a fictional character and not a real boxer? You remember the eggs, the raw eggs. He cracks it open, puts it in the cup, and then drinks it, right? Just, you know, very primitive, right? Just, I mean, it's functional, right? I don't think he even had a stove where he was at in his small apartment that he was living in that movie. The runs that he does, you know, the dun 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 dun, and then later on, the Eye of the Tiger came later at like Rocky 3, right? But you remember Rocky living in Philadelphia broke. That is what you remember, okay? And I understand what Dana White is saying here, right? When I first moved to Sacramento, okay, one of my happiest times was when I barely had anything. The apartment that I lived at was near a mosque, and then I was living near 2 gyms that I was training out at, right? One was a fitness gym, 24-hour fitness in the Arden area, and then the other one was Muay Thai Lao, where I had won that amateur title right there, okay? So that in and of itself right there is one of my most memorable times, right? Now, obviously, I have lived in, you know, where I live at now, right, in a much more, let's say, affluent settings, you know, in comparison to before. But I always go back to that time of living there. And then on top of that, the area that I lived at, because there was a lot of Iraqi and Syrian refugees and a lot of Arabs that lived in that part of Sacramento, you know, I remember eating all the top Arabic restaurants there, the top Persian restaurants, and the Afghan kebab places. So it was always, you know, a memory that was entrenched in my mind, and it will forever will be, right? But it was also one of the, I wouldn't say more difficult times, but I think it's safe to say in comparison to now, probably the more less fortunate times. But if you think about it, how less fortunate could I have possibly been? I'm near a mosque, I'm near a gym, and they're all in walking distance. Now you live in the suburbs and you got to drive literally anywhere to get to point A to point B, right? Going to the gym now is, you know, a 20-minute drive, right? Going to another gym, you know, a combat sports gym, maybe, you know, 1 or 2 hours sometimes, depending on traffic. But anyhow, back to Eddie Hearn and Pierce Morgan. And then after we're done with this one, we're going to get to the Tom Aspinall announcement.
I just get a feeling of a guy who, yeah, you're stinking rich, but you're actually a happy guy. And you're quite a well-adjusted guy, I think. I don't know you as well as you know yourself, but you know, it looks to me like money hasn't corrupted you like it has a lot of people.
You're joking. He can't possibly be serious about that. Are you serious? Pierce Morgan, did you really just say that? I mean, listen, Pierce Morgan is probably, you know, a very blind man to that aspect. Let's hear that again.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I don't know you as well as you know yourself, but you know, it looks to me like money hasn't corrupted you like it has a lot of people.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, you know, money ruins everything. When a lot of money gets involved, you know, everybody thinks that the answer and the key to happiness in their life is going to be if they can make a lot of money. You know what money does? Money doesn't make you sweat the things that regular people sweat. How am I going to pay the mortgage, the car payment? You know, you don't sweat that stuff, but money brings a lot of other problems to your life. And if you're not a happy person who loves
Okay, so he's absolutely right about that, right? All of you that complain about money, okay, you always say, oh man, I wish I was rich, or this and that, or, you know, you would say, you know, just one of the most, you know, underlining jealous statements that you could make to your friend. Oh, it must be nice. It must be nice that you went to vacations. It must be nice that you got 2 cars in your garage. It must be nice that you got a big house with big ceilings. It must be nice. Oh, it must be nice. It must be nice. I hate when people say that. I'm going to tell you, man, if you were to ever say that to me in person, you know, I would probably knock you out. I'm dead serious. I would probably knock you out on the spot. And then people are going to look at me like I'm a psychopath for doing that, because they're not going to understand the long-term reasons why, you know, I'm doing that. I'm doing that because you saying that, you know, makes me feel like, you know what, this person is going to Nipsey Hussle me one day. Okay, this person is going to Orlando Anderson Tupac me one day. You know, this person is going to Yolanda Selena me one day. If you don't know who Selena is, she was that Latin singer in the 1990s who got killed by her assistants, right? Like, that is what is going through my mind when you do that. If you were to ever do that to me, I really would knock you out on the spot because I would feel threatened by you. I would be like, this person is a threat. This person, you know, is is jealous of something, and you know, jealousy can turn very deadly. Okay, so I'm gonna nip it in the butt right there. I'm just gonna punch you on the spot. And if we were in a third world country, God forbid you were to say that to me while we're in a third world country where there are no laws. God forbid. Okay, God forbid. God forbid. Allah, God forbid you were to say that. I would finish you off right there. You would get thrown into the sea, and then the U.S. State Department would have to look for your body, and nobody would know. You would just be a missing person. That's what would happen to you if you were to say that to me in a country that had no laws and that had no jurisdiction for the U.S. State Department. That is literally what I would do to you, because you are a threat. So, you know what? Whenever someone says that, please just don't say that, okay? Especially if you're dealing with somebody who has, you know, a little bit of some deranged psychopathic, things going on in their head, right? PTSD or things of that nature, right? Do not ever say that, because it would not go well for you. And I'm not just speaking for myself, by the way, just so you know, okay? I'm playing a character. I'm speaking in a very hyperbole situation. I'm speaking in a very hypothetical situation. But at the same time, you also got to remember, I'm an entertainer, right? I'm an entertainer. You remember that. I'm an entertainer. So, you know, watch what you say to me, because I would not tolerate that. This, really, like a lot of you people, man, a lot of you people don't understand threat assessments. You know, you just think that, you know, everything is all jolly, everything is all good, that people are lovely, that people love you, that people care for you. And granted, some do. Some actually do. Don't ever lose sight of that. Don't ever lose sight of your goodness and humanity. But you need to understand, there are people out there, all of a sudden, you know, you buy this, beautiful piece of art, right? I don't know, like a glass of something, right? A beautiful piece of art, like a china or something breakable. And you like it. I don't know. I'm not one of these guys that, you know, collects china plates or vases or anything like that, or anything breakable. You know, that's not my thing. But if that's your thing and you really like it, a jealous friend would do something. Oops. Oh no, now your stuff is broken. I'm so sorry. This is what I would do. Hey homies, come through the crib. All right? You know, we finna slide on somebody right now. Okay, come through. Yeah. This dude right here, you know, I don't know about him. You know, we need to do something to this guy. You know, okay. All right, say less. Okay? He says, judge not unless you judge yourself first. Okay, Brad Pitbull, what exactly do you mean by that? Is that in reference to what I'm saying towards my aspect of threat assessment towards a person, you know, saying certain things? I'm just saying, bro, look, I'm 40 years old. I've been around the block. I've been around the world. I understand most personalities, okay? I understand people's personalities. I understand people's motivation, to all of us. Okay, fair enough. But all I'm saying is, you also got to understand, right? You know, maybe I got a little bit of PTSD. Maybe, maybe it's, you know, a little bit of some paranoia on my part. I want you to also understand that, right? As I'm also, you know, telling you all of these, you know, hypothetical situations, right? I'm not correct all the time. But at the same time, I just know what jealous people look like. And I think if you've been around long enough, I'm not saying that you're not. I mean, I don't know how old you are. You know, obviously I'm 40. You know, Marty is like 35. So he's a little bit older too. He kind of understands, right? You know, like there's, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just tripping. I don't know. But, you know, when I hear you, it must be nice. You know, it triggers something in me because, you know, and you know what? I yelled at Ali Khan the other day for that. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, you know, it must be nice that, you know, you're streaming all day. I'm like, yo, do you really think that's what I do all day? I just stream? Here's the thing, right? I want to address that. I think a lot of you don't know what it's like to pursue something for greatness. Okay, that's really what it is. A lot of you don't understand that sometimes you have to sacrifice your time. Sometimes you have to, do things when you don't want to. Look, a lot of streamers right now, okay? You think MMA Joey wants to be up right now doing a stream about, Tom Aspinall? No, because he felt like he's already made it. Do you think MMA Guru wanted to make a video about, Deontay Wilder and, the current events that was going on while he was coming home from the Bryce Mitchell trip? No, he didn't want to do any of that because he felt like he made it. Well, look, here's the thing. I felt like I've made it. I've made it in other portions of my life. Well, now I'm here stepping into a world and a realm of MMA YouTube, and I want to make it too. I want to make it in this world as well. I want to make it in this world as I've made it in other parts of my life and accomplish things that I've done in other parts of my life, right? I want to treat this like how I treated that to fight for that, right? I remember the training camps that I had, doing that. I remember, all the time and dedication that I did. Also just being able to skip out on normal activities that most people in their mid-20s would do, right? And all in the name of, obviously, winning, a trophy, right? I mean, that's very minuscule to a person who's a grown adult whose mind should be on money, whose mind should be on what they could do to take care of their, family. But at that time, I had the time and the means and the resources to do it, so I went and pursued it. Just like this, I had the means and the resources to do this, so I'm going to go and pursue it. I'm going to go and pursue in becoming the greatest MMA streamer in the history of mankind that has ever seen. And I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that in a very psychopathic level, and I'm going to do that until, my last breath, and I'm going to die for this if I have to. Okay, that is the type of dedication that and here's the thing. That is why, you say, oh, it must be nice that, you have all this time in the world. Well, you don't understand what I do prior to that or what I do after this. You only see me within this small box of time of, I don't know, let's take a look at the time frame of how long I do my my live streams, right? So, in the last content that I did, that was 1 hour and 13 minutes. You don't know what I did before that 1 hour and 30 minutes 12 hours ago, when I did the Dana White video, right, where Dana White talks about be happy if you're broke. 17 hours ago, that was 1 hour and 49 minutes. You don't know what I did prior or before that, right? You don't know. And then on top of that, here's another thing. You don't know my personal daily life, because I only let you know what I want you to know, because quite frankly, you have no business. And here's the thing a lot of you guys need to understand too, right? A lot of you on social media, not just streamers, right, but just regular people, you disclose too much about where you work, and then you wonder why you get fired. You understand what I said? A lot of you disclose too much of what you do, and this is a reason why a lot of you get fired, because you think that freedom of speech applies to everything, okay? And the truth is it doesn't. So a lot of you need to shut up about your high-paying jobs and what you do, especially when you're online, let alone if you are in streaming, or not just streaming, but if you're just on Facebook or you're a regular guy on Instagram. Shut up about what you do, because guess what? The minute you say something wrong, oh, let's go look for where this guy works at. Next thing you know, you get a call from your desk. Hey, Mr. El-Kheer, come here. We got to talk to you. So yesterday you were talking about the Israelis in your live podcast, and you were playing a Kanye West song that went something like, we're going to have to let you go. We do not, hold the sentiments that you hold in this company, and therefore we have to let you go. Just like that, okay? So please understand, understand that, you can think what you want to think, okay? But by the end of the day, results don't lie, lifestyles don't lie, and realities don't lie. The thing is that I'm just not going to tell you everything because it's not a good security measure to do so. Okay, it really isn't. And that's another thing a lot of you don't understand is security and threat assessments. That's why I told you I will literally punch you in the face if you were to ever say to me those exact words, oh, it must be nice. Because I'm going to detect jealousy, I'm going to detect some sort of animosity from you, and I'm not going to tolerate that in my life. Not at 40 years old, and certainly not at a time where I could or could not be vulnerable to X, Y, and Z. Brad Pitbull says to all of us, okay, Brad Pitbull says, you can hear jealous in how people speak if you listen. There you go, yes. Victory says, because nothing has been handed to you. He says, we know you were, okay, yes, what you know. Yes, that is true. Yes, that is a reality of my life. Yes, because you could verify that through, people that have, what do you call it, that know me, or people that know me around town. I mean, for crying out loud, right? Let me tell you some of the reasons of how I, built a reputation in the streets was through repossessing cars. And you would imagine the majority of the people that I repoed cars from were from people in the hood. And a lot of these Arab guys in Sacramento, they were too, let's just be honest about it, they were too scared to go to black neighborhoods. So guess what? They're like, hey, let's go get that violent, SOB right there, Kyrie Abu El-Kheer, to go and do these repo jobs because he's a psychopath and he doesn't mind getting down with these people. Long story short, they're afraid of black people. I'm not. And that's the reason why they sent me on these missions to retrieve their cars from them on top of, selling cars myself. So, so you got to imagine, how do I say this? It's kind of like GTA missions, right? They give you money, after you finish a mission in GTA. That's really, what it is. He says, that's, okay, that's awesome. Yes, yes. So that's, he says, what was your best repo story? So one guy, right, I knocked at his door, and I was there with the guy that actually had the license to, take the car, right? So remember, these are like Arab guys that, only hire their family members. And what's crazy about it, they would hire like Indian guys, Mexican guys, and they would treat them like second-class citizens, right? Obviously, I'm not going to mention any names, but if you're from Sacramento and Arab car sales guys, you know what I'm talking about, right? They would hire the Arab guys. The Arab guys would sit in the office, right? Have the finance cushing job, right? While these guys are sitting out in the hot sun, waiting for the customers to come in to lure them in. And then once they're ready to buy, all these Arab guys got to do is just sit in their office and sign these people up while they're sitting in an air-conditioned trailer, right? So long story short, a lot of these guys are coddled. A lot of these guys, you would think like, okay, these are Arab guys, the Arab world is full of wars and full of combat. So you probably think like these are also very violent individuals. You could be wrong, okay? Because number one, they're not Iraqi, they're not Syrian, they're not Afghani, they're not war babies. They're not from, war-torn countries. They're from Jordan. Yes, some of them were Palestinian, but they were Palestinian that either grew up in Europe or Palestinians that grew up in Jordan. And Jordan is a pretty wealthy Arab country. So is the UAE, right? So these are not Arabs that come from, dangerous places. So lo and behold, they call me and they ask me, hey, you want to go do a repo job? We'll give you this much or this much for hazardous duty pay. I'm like, say less. And then on top of that, I mean, this isn't necessarily snitching to, kind of reveal this, but, a lot of Arab guys in the car business own guns, okay? They own guns, and sometimes, they will sell you one legally, of course, right? I'm speaking in legal terms here. They all own legal firearms. They're all CC, carriers and whatnot. So, yeah, let's just say that, that is part of the business. So one story I had, this one guy asked me, hey, I need you to go down to, South Sacramento. And for those of you that don't know anything about South Sacramento, it's a blood neighborhood, right? I'm like, okay, great. I have experience being around Bloods. obviously I got a lot of experience being around Crips and Stockton, no problem. Let's get this thing cracking, right? So I go there. He says, I want to see a video on that. Well, this was in 2013, 12 or 13. I mean, you know, it's I highly doubt there was a video of that. I mean, maybe, right? Maybe there was somebody in the cut that was, you know, filming or whatever. But long story short, we bring the car into, you know, the machine or whatever, right? You know, we knock at the door. We try to give them a chance to see if they're there. Next thing you know, this guy comes out. You know, he tries to literally hang on to the what do you call it? The bumper of the car while the car was moving. So it did not look very good. Okay, first of all, let me just say this, right? It was, you know, a person of color. Okay, hey, I'm not going to say which one, but you would imagine, let me just say, it's not a good look seeing a guy hanging from, you know, his bumper, right? Because it looks like we're the ones dragging him. So, you know, to try and assess this PR nightmare, you know, of somebody dragging, you know, themselves off of a bumper from the towing, I had to get out of the car and I said, bro, you need to get off, right? So he didn't want to get off. He was holding on for his dear life. And then I went and gave him, you know, a Pride FC Shogun Hua stomp right on his fingers, you know, and as soon as I, put my feet right there, bang, bang, you know, then I go and run right into the car and I tell the guy to drive off. You know what I mean? And then he like tried to run after us. And remember, you know, this is, what do you call it? This is like a tow truck. So it's not like, you know, a fast moving car. It's not like a sports car or anything like that. He says, that's okay. I'll video you working. Well, look, I don't do this anymore. Okay. Because here's the thing, right? The reason why I left this business is because, number one, in Islam, you cannot charge people interest. Okay. And even though there's a lot of Arabs, by the way, this was not a guy that was athletic enough to run. Let me just say that, right? You could only kind of guess what his physical shape was, okay? Let me just say that he was, you know, more of a Biggie Smalls than he was a Tupac, if that makes any sense, right? So, yeah, you know, him running after the car was not a problem. Plus, you know, it's a tow truck attached to a car, so it wasn't going to go really fast, and you didn't really need to go really fast to outrun this guy. He wasn't Usain Bolt or, you know, or anyone like that. You know what I'm saying? He says ninjas hanging off a bumper. Bro, that's radical. Ninjas can run fast. Not this guy, right? He didn't have that body shape to, you know, do exactly that. But okay, the reason why I left the car business, okay, is because, you know, look, it was fun. Obviously, that was one part of the car business that, you know, I enjoyed on top of selling the cars as well, right? I also enjoyed taking people out for test drives. You know, sometimes I would take people out for test drives for like a whole entire hour, right? Some dudes, sometimes, you know, sometimes if it was like a real hood, you know, type of dude that I know that had money, you know what I mean? Like money that they kind of did not want to reveal to the world, if you know what I mean, right? Like one of those guys, I would, you know, kind of treat them special a little bit. Like, okay, you know what? I know this guy has some cash on him. No problem. You know, I'll treat him a little bit special. Hey, you know, you want to go and stop somewhere, get a bite to eat? You know, hey, maybe I could come show you this, you know, restaurant that you may like. You know, what do you like? Italian food? Do you like, you know, Arabic food? Let's go and have lunch. I'll take my lunch with you while we do this. And that's how I would do business, right? Because I knew that they were down to buy the car. And then here's the thing. Sometimes they would want to like kind of, you know, drive the car around, kind of stunt with it. You know what I mean? Like, you know how it is. You know what I mean? You know how hood dudes are. Like, hey, look at my new ride, this and that. You know, well, who's that Arab psycho that's sitting with you, you know, in the front seat, you know? And then they would be like, man, that's Kyrie. That's my assassin from Libya over there. And I'm like, oh, God. Okay, now I'm someone's assassin. Okay, you know what I mean? But, hey, you know, and whatever made them look good, right? And then they would end up buying the car because I knew that they had the cash for it. So, you know, those were the fun aspects of it, right? Also, you know, another fun aspects, you know, the small minuscule aspects, you know, if you had to get the car repaired, for example, if we had some BMWs or Mercedes-Benzes that would need to be taken to a shop for a special type of repair, I would go drive that car, and guess what? I would just sit right there in a Mercedes-Benz dealership, they'd have like, you know, the coffee right there. You know, they would treat you like really first class and all of that. I would sit there with the Wi-Fi and this and that, and you know, and just sit there and chill and then wait for that car to get done. And then I'd be on my phone, you know, calling like potential clients like, hey, do you want to get this car, or when can we meet up, or you know, so those were the fun things about it, right? There was a certain amount of freedom that came with that, but it was also like, you know, very time consuming, right? Like if I was to do that today, I don't think I would be able to, you know, do MMA streaming the way that I'm doing right now, right? I would not be able to do that. I would not be able to, you know, live stream the way that I do. I would not be able to do, you know, UFC fights on a Saturday, because guess what? Guess what, man? Guess what day people like to, you know, what day people like to buy cars? It's on a Saturday. So I'm like, man, you know what? I have to sit here and watch Pat Healy fight Khabib Nurmagomedov in the prelims to John Jones and Alexander Gustafsson. Yes, that's how long it was ago. You know, when I was in the car business, you know, where we're talking about like Alexander Gustafsson versus John Jones. So, you know, I would tell the guys, hey, listen, you know, let's watch the fights right here, right? I would order the pay-per-view right there, or this and that. So, yeah, it was fun. It was fun. There's a lot of freedom to it. There, you know, there's a lot of excitement. But as a Muslim, you cannot charge interest, okay? And when you are selling cars, you are charging people interest. And sometimes those interest rates raise up after a few years, because these guys think like, okay, you know what? I'll pay little right now, but then later on, the inflation gets high. Next thing you know, the interest rates are high, and now you're paying from, let's say, $200 a month, and then a couple of years later, now you're paying $400 a month. I'm sorry, but in Islamic terms, that is oppression. And let me tell you, riba, as they call it in Arabic, interest charging, is so dangerous in the eyes of Allah. You are literally causing a war with Allah. Okay, that is what an Islamic scholar told me. You are waging war with Allah by participating in this business. And I said, wow, that sounds so serious. You said you're waging war against Allah? How so? He said, okay, I'm going to get rid of you, okay? He said, who is Allah? What a stupid statement to make right there. I'm just sending you to the shadow realm. I don't even have any time for you saying all of this BS, and I'm going to tell you why, right? I'm going to tell you why I don't have time for this BS. Number one, that's like asking me what amigo means, okay? You don't need to know Spanish, but you know that amigo means friend. You don't need to ask that. You know in the English language what God is, so you know that being that, you know, the Arab world is prominent in the news on an everyday basis, you know what Allah is. Okay, so I'm not going to play these stupid games. I'm just getting rid of you. I'm getting you up out of here because you're an idiot, and I'm not going to deal with stupidity. I only want, you know, wholesome, intelligent conversations today, and that's that. So you're up out of here. You're out, and see you in the shadow realm. Do me a favor. Go build another chat. Go build another screen name. Come back in here so you can build up my algorithm again. Goodbye, you idiot. Bye-bye. All right, so going back to what I was saying, yes, it is literally causing a war with Allah. Because let me tell you something. If you're in debt the way that you are, okay, you are not going to be able to practice the religion correctly. You are not going to be able to worship God correctly because you're worried about living paycheck to paycheck. You're worried about the interest that you have to pay. And next thing you know, you have no freedom. You are locked in a chain having to answer the commands of, you know, societal pressures. That is causing a war with Allah. So that's how serious it was. So guess what I did? I went to go finish college, right? Got my degree, got my bachelor's degree in journalism communication, and then went on to other sectors, and here we are. He said, some people, Victory says, some people are names that, though. Maybe he thought you were talking about someone, LOL. No, he knows that I wasn't talking about someone. Although there was one character in the prison show back in the 90s and the early 2000s called Oz on HBO, right? There was this guy with dreads. He called himself a Supreme Allah, right? He was one of these, like, you know, weirdo black nationalist dudes that thought he had a God complex, and you know how that goes, right? So he called himself Supreme Allah, right? And don't get me started with that, right? You know, as much as I also got into fights, you know, with, you know, other, you know, minority groups in Sacramento, I also got into fights with Shias, you know, Iraqi, refugee Shias out here in Sacramento, as well as also getting into fights with black nationalists for calling themselves stupid names like, hey, my name is Supreme Allah. Like, what do you mean your name is Supreme Allah? Boom! How supreme are you now, bitch ass nigga? Okay, anyways, yeah, so there it is, right? So yeah, guys, that's how serious, you know, that that thing is. It is very serious when you are waging a war with Allah. So in reality, what I was doing in the car business was actually waging a war with Allah. Now, let's really put this in reverse for a second, right? That guy that I had to go repo from. This guy could have been a Muslim. This guy could have been a Christian. This guy could have been a Jew, right? I don't know what religion he followed, but whatever religion he followed, he certainly was not worried about praying to God because he was too busy trying to pay for this car. You understand? That is waging a war with Allah. That is how serious this is, right? So, you know, I try to advise the other Arab guys too that are in that business, but it falls on deaf ears because, quite frankly, a lot of them, you know, are ignorant. A lot of them don't really understand anything other than the car business. And then a lot of them are too scared to work for other people that are not Arab, right? So, you know, they're like, you know, village idiots. I mean, you know, I hate to say it, but a lot of the Arab guys that I work with in the car business, and, you know, my God, I love a lot of them. And a lot of them I see at the mosque every Friday, and they're probably watching this right now like, man, what did you say about me in your live stream? Yeah, you're a low IQ idiot because you don't know how to do anything else. You know, you put yourself in these situations, you know, selling cars when you could be going out to college or maybe, you know, trying out a different career or trying out a different, you know, set of skills. But a Kalashnikov, a very interesting name. I like your name, by the way, right? Obviously, AK-47. Kalashnikov says, who, bro? Which fighter, bro? I'm talking about the Arabs that I, you know, worked with in the car business before, right? I was saying that the reason why I quit the car business is because of the fact that, you know, you are causing a war with Allah because you are charging interest, and interest is highly haram in Islam. So there it is. Generic name says, I am not religious but love humanity. I think that is all that should matter. To be honest with you, generic, right? That's a very generic statement. Okay, that's like saying, well, you know what? I don't like the rain, but the sky is blue. Duh. Okay, duh. I mean, like, I'm sorry to say, like, what do you want me to say to that? Like, I'm not a religious person. Okay, you're not a religious person. Fine. That's your right. I don't know you from a can of paint. I would advise you otherwise, right? But he says, but I love humanity. That's like saying, well, I hate the rain, but, you know, the sky is blue. Like, that is literally what you were saying in that same fashion. And if you think that's all that should matter, look, that's a very simplistic way of looking at the world. That's not how you should look at the world. You should understand that we all have different interests, and this is great because I can kind of segue this into, you know, into the conversation with Eddie Hearn and Dana White, right? We all have competing interests, my man. I don't know what, you know, one person told you, but, you know, yeah, we all have competing interests, and within those competing interests comes your own ethos, your own way of living, your own principles, and the way that you look at the world. And as a result of that, you really have to understand that you're not going to be friends with everybody all the time. So all of this humanity BS or this and that, by the way, listen, a lot of black nationalist guys try to preach this stuff to me all the time too, right? I had a black nationalist guy tell me, well, you know, you just go out and you hurt black people or this, that, and the other. Yeah, but that's because I got a lot of black homies too that probably have problems with them, and I'm not going to be a punk about it and let them, you know, suffer in the name of these people. So, you know, there you have it, right? So, you know, all this stuff about, yeah, we should all come together as black people, as Asian people, as white people, or, you know, all people or this and that, that doesn't work in reality. You know, especially if you've been around situations that deal with tribal combat. And when I mean tribal combat, that can mean multitudes of things, right? That could mean street gangs. That could mean rebel forces versus government forces. That could mean rebel forces versus other rebel forces. That could mean insurgent groups versus other insurgent groups, other guerrilla units versus other guerrilla units versus the military, right? In all forms of combat, in all forms of different oppositional, dysfunctions. Anthony says, oh, Kalashnikov says, God bless you, brother. Thank you, Kalashnikov. Are you Muslim by any chance? I mean, your name is Kalashnikov. There's a good chance that, you like AK-47s. And, I'm sure a lot of people look at the AK-47 as the modern defender of Islam, right? You know what I mean? So, Anthony Serrano says, the banks that give loans don't care what religion you follow. All right, well, Anthony, I'm sorry to say that's a very ignorant statement, right? But at the same time, it's, once again, a very similar statement to where you say, the sky is blue, but I hate the rain. Okay, that's literally what you're saying right now. The sky is blue, but I hate the rain. Let's read that again and make you understand what you're saying, right? What you're saying is the banks that give loans don't care what religion you follow. Of course they don't care what religion you follow. And that is exactly why you should have a religion, to understand that, you know what, you should not be, getting loans from these banks, because once you do, you're only going to put yourself in a high position of debt. So yes, you should care about your religion, because the truth is they don't care about your religion. You understand? You should find a religion that tells you not to deal with these deviant banks, because they don't care about your religion. Okay, which again goes back to, I hate the rain, but the sky is blue. All right, and yeah, blue is my favorite color as well. So, Generic says, there is a God, he made us. I will treat people with respect and compassion. I think that is enough. If God demands I worship him, he is not worthy of, if God demands I worship him, he is not worthy of worship. Well, obviously, I disagree with you on that. That's just, natural as a Muslim or somebody that follows a monotheistic way of life. So, I mean, look, by the end of the day, even the Quran says it best, you have your beliefs, I have mine. Matua says, how are the war efforts going? We boycotting the White House card? Yes or no? He says, I hate mud, but I like the moist. You cheeky bastard. You cheeky bastard. You're trying to get me at a gotcha moment, trying to say that, like, you know what, you're talking all of this morality issue and and morality stances and performative outrage, but yet you're going to cover the White House card. That is what you're saying, right? It's not the same. And maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong, but we can have a debate about it to find out who's right and wrong, because I'm not telling you that I'm 100% correct or you're 100% correct, but understand this, right? I'm not going to the White House. In fact, I would not go to the White House if I was given a press pass for this fight, and let me tell you why. The reason why I would... No, I understand, Matua. You said I don't want to be right. I don't want to be either. That's not where my ego lies, right? My ego doesn't lie in being right, right? My ego only lies if you insult me or if you, discard my honor in any kind of way. Then, you know how it is with the stance and the ethos that I live by. It is death before dishonor, above all else, right? But, if it's not that, if there's no, dignity that's being shattered or insults that are being thrown around, then, yeah, of course, my pride is not indicative of whether I am right about, a statement I make or a fact that I think that I know that could be wrong, right? In fact, I want to have intellectual discourse to find out whether I am correct or not. And if I'm wrong, then I would love to be corrected so that I can move forward in my life with, the proper information, right? And this is, by the way, one of the reasons that got me out of the car business was like, you know what? Prove to me that this is haram, right? A sheikh came to me and proved to me why it's haram. I said, okay, say less. I'm going to go find a different career tomorrow, and it was easy as that. Have you seen the Abrahamic family house by Sir David Architects? No, I haven't. Tell me more about that. Rodzilla, shout out to you, man. Rodzilla, this I haven't seen you here in a while. Rodzilla says, let me get your press pass. Okay, well, let me tell you, okay, well, if that is hypothetically, if I do get a press pass, okay, let me tell you why I would not go. It would be a serious security issue. The White House would be a serious security issue because of what is going on right now, right? The Israelis could, perform a false flag attack, make it look like the Iranians did it, or the actual Iranians themselves that are, letting off shots and, and busting down on, on the White House card, right? So that's my reason why I would not, accept that, that particular press pass if I was given the opportunity. I would just be right here. By the way, shout out to Mark Haney with my ADD gang. You know what I mean? With my ADD gang. And react to the fights right here at home. And then watch it with you guys and then just talk our smack. Right? That would be good enough for me. So, Matua says, yeah, shout out to Mark Haney, by the way, man. I don't know if you were here earlier. I was kind of giving some stories on, on my days, doing repo and whatnot, and working in the car business. Great stuff, you know what I mean? But, we obviously talk some gangster shit too on top of that. So, gangster shit, religion, politics, all rolled into one. Nothing less that you expect out of me, right? You know what I mean? I am 100% dopamine high to the fullest of every story and everything that I convey with you guys, because that is what I offer this channel as the most epic mixed martial arts channel in the history of mankind. All right, so Matua says, God made me because he or she, okay, there you go again with the pronouns, all right? Like, he kind of reminds me of that interaction with Ice Cube and Regina King in Boys in the Hood, right? Regina King with her little feminist, mindset saying to Ice Cube, well, N-word, how you know God is a he? How you know God ain't a she? And then, Ice Cube said something, really slick to her. I'm like, man, because, God ain't no, B-I-T-C-H. Oh, man, I love 90s, gangster films, man. Real awesome stuff. Because he made me able to lift plates. Okay, Matua says the Abrahamic family house is 3 buildings, a mosque, a synagogue, a church, I think, and a plaza, all close together. It's a place for everyone to gather and spiritual practice in peace. I mean, all right, sure. Yeah, I mean, it sounds more like, like a little hippie haven, / cult you got going on. I'm kidding. I don't know. But he says, yeah, engage with each other. That's where they should have the UFC event. No, obviously, this UFC event is purposely done all for Donald Trump to reward not only himself, not only give himself a birthday gift, right? I mean, who would not want, a UFC fight, taking place in front of your house or at least live for you to be there, right? It's a birthday gift to him, and it's a gift to the UFC fans that stood by him when he was going through all these court cases and litigation that basically plummeted him back into mainstream level, right? Which eventually got him back into the presidency. He says that's where the UFC event should be. Generic says, I think religion is harmful. Yeah, I think that statement is harmful, right? I mean, you're talking to a guy with a beard and no mustache, and you're telling me that religion is harmful. Okay. He says, and I hope our species will leave behind that unnecessary divide in the future. We as social animals could do great things if we set aside the insignificant differences. Okay, that's where you're wrong, bro. That is where you're wrong. You know what? I think being around or just understanding gang culture or tribal culture or insurgency culture around the world or rebel force culture around the world really made me understand that we are not all the same. We all have our own differences. Sometimes we can get along with those differences, right? And then sometimes we can't. But sometimes we can come together and sometimes we can't. It just really depends on the situation, right? So it sounds like a very idealistic way of looking at the world, but it doesn't mean that you're correct in a practical application of it. It's just not real. I'm sorry. I know that sounds ideal, but this is the problem with non-religious people trying to lecture to religious people, right? They see this one problem. They see this one problem of religion, which obviously encompasses war, encompasses what we call in the Islamic faith, jihad fi sabilillah, right? And what I just said right now, jihad fi sabilillah, you don't need to understand Arabic to know exactly what I just said, right? I think it is quite clear what jihad fi sabilillah means in Arabic, okay? And if you don't know, then hit the one on the chat and maybe I can further elaborate for you what that means. But we all know the word jihad, okay? That word right there exists for a reason. We're all different. That's how it's just going to be, right? And you see that. You see the violence that comes with that. You see the wars that come with that. You see the political turmoils that come with that. And you just think that with your own simplistic deduction of this whole entire process, you're just going to outright remove religion from the world and think that is the best idea, when little do you know, religion brings nothing but peace to some people, discipline to some people, right? If you've ever seen, I mean, look, thank God, over the years, I've never had to, face a serious prison time or anything like that. But for the ones that have been in prison, and the Muslims that I know that have been in prison, right? And the Muslims that I'm in contact with that are still, locked up, they tell me that when they go in there and they find Islam, they find a lot of peace in their heart that they never found before, right? So you want to take away all of that because you can't handle a few people blowing each other up in countries that you can't even pronounce. I mean, make that make sense, but I understand what you're saying though. I'm just trying to make you understand your deducted point of view of viewing this whole thing about religion, right? It's not very fair to, assess it in that matter, in my humble opinion. But obviously, if you have a different, set of, beliefs in that, then yeah. He says, diverse in our faith, common in our humanity, together in peace. He says, yeah, I can't handle that. What can't you handle? That people, hurt each other? I understand, because you're an idealist. You see, me, I'm not an idealist. I'm a realist, okay? I understand that you can't remove religions. Look, you want to know the truth? Most Muslims, okay, maybe even including myself, right? I'm not going to confirm or deny it. Most of us would want the whole world to be Muslim, okay? And I'm sorry if that offends some people. That's just the reality of it. Listen, I'm a very non-apologetic Muslim guy. I'm going to tell you like it is. That is the wish of many true devout Muslims who have a beard and that make the effort of getting rid of their mustache. That is their whole entire goal. I don't know if you guys know that. I don't know if that's breaking news to you. But guess what? Even if that is our wish, that's not reality. Okay, that's not reality. There's a lot of people that don't want to have religion. There's a lot of people that would prefer to be Christians. There's a lot of people that would prefer to be Jews. And that's just what it is. So it's all right if you can't handle that, but, that's what it is. He says, can we rewrite the Quran? No, you cannot. There's a reason why we have not changed the language of the Quran, because Arabic is a language that is designed so that you have a very difficult time of changing the word from the Quran and making it an easier time of you remembering it. And that is one of the miracles of the Quran, is being able to remember it because of the language structure that Arabic offers. So that's what it is. He says there's some wild stuff in there though. Well, then it's not for you. That's just what it is. If it's not for you, then stay out of the mosque, okay? And quite frankly, stay out of a Muslim's way if you can't handle that, because that is how we are going to, abide by our religion. And, and quite frankly, I'm not saying that I will, but you better believe that there's people that are going to stand on that, and there's people that are going to ride for that until the very end. And that is indicative of what happened in France with the Charlie Hebdo situation, right? You guys, well, not you guys, but the hyperbole you guys, not you specifically, but the hyperbole version of you, or the general population of the world, or in particular the sample size population of France, decided, hey, you know what, we're going to draw a picture of the Prophet Muhammad. We think this is a good guy. Next thing you know, Allahu Akbar! Boom, 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 boom. Allahu Akbar! Boom, 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 boom. And that's tragic and that's sad. I don't wish for that to happen, but the reality is there are Muslims out there that are crazy enough to do that. I'm just not one of them. Okay? I am a podcast streamer. That is what I do. That is what they do, unfortunately. I'm just here to talk about it and give you the realities of the world. He says, I like the mosque. He says, make the Bible a little shorter though. Well, you know what? The Bible has already been rewritten, and quite frankly, that's for you to take up with the Christians. That is not my politics for me to, interfere, right? That's like me. That's like Mark Haney coming in here and asking me about, hey, what do you think I should do with, my Northaniel homies, in the Bay Area? I don't know, dude. I'm not a Northaniel. That's not my politics. Just like it's not my politics to, tell a Christian that they should shorten their Bible, right? So that's just the reality of it. All right, so yeah, so I was going to segue this into understanding that we all do not have the same similar interests. Impossible. We don't have similar interests. Not in business, not in politics, not in the world of religions and religious wars. That's just the reality of the world that we live in. So with that in mind, you have to understand that with the differences that we have going on, we have to either respect it or understand that this is just the way that it is. Okay, Dana White and the UFC, they are a monopoly by the end of the day, right? You just have to accept it. Now, if you as Eddie Hearn, you want to continue and conduct your business, you're going to have to walk around that, or at least try to compete with them in some kind of capacity. He says the Quran is a short read. The Bible takes forever to read. Because there was a lot of people that rewrote it and, and wanted to add stuff for their own political gain. And that's, that's the unfortunate reality of it. So
your life when you're broke, you are definitely not going to be a happy person that loves your life when you have a lot of money. I can guarantee you that.
Working across teams is tough, but Asana helps you handle it. That's because Asana is where humans and AI...
And yes, I told that kid, some of the greatest times of my life were when I was broke. I had a blast when I was broke.
Well, what's the best and worst thing about being highly successful and very wealthy?
There's a lot of things that people don't see.
When you said Cameron, are you talking about the rapper? And was that recent? Let me know.
A lot of people coming at you all the time. You really can't trust people. You can't let your guard down with anybody.
Yeah, you see that? So earlier when I told you guys, if I was to ever meet a person and they were to say to me, oh, it must be nice. It must be nice. And I told you that I'm going to get off on them. This is exactly why. This is exactly why I said what I said earlier. Listen to this.
Trust people. A lot of people coming at you all the time. You really can't trust people.
This is Dana White talking about when you come up with a lot of money, right? There's a lot of people coming at you all the time. You really can't trust people, so on and so forth from here.
You can't let your guard down with anybody. And everybody needs to borrow money, man. Everybody needs to borrow money. There's people in line every day. Pierce, I'm sure you deal with it.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. Somebody says to you, hey, I want to borrow some money. That money's never coming back, okay? There's no such thing as borrowing money.
Yeah, that's another thing, right? I had this dude, you know what, I'm just going to reveal his name. I don't really care. He's not he's not even in the United States anymore, right? Anyways, he got deported back to Egypt, right? This dude named Rami that I knew in Old Bridge, New Jersey, right? He got deported from the United States, from New Jersey to Egypt. He got deported, right? Let me tell you why this is significant, okay? He got deported because he was selling drugs, okay? He was not an American citizen. His parents were never American citizens. They came here legally, but they were in legal rights to sort of deport him up out of here, right? So he got deported. Next thing you know, he was living in Abu Dhabi. All right. While he was living in Abu Dhabi, he tried to, look for a job. He tried to work in real estate out in Abu Dhabi, which, was lucrative for him by the very least, right? He was an Egyptian American, knew how to speak English. So there was great opportunities for him in Abu Dhabi. Next thing you know, he gets kicked out of Abu Dhabi for, unknown reasons, or at least reasons that I don't know about, right? I didn't really further investigate how he got kicked out of Abu Dhabi. So now he gets deported out of the United States from New Jersey into Egypt, then from Egypt goes to Abu Dhabi, then from Abu Dhabi gets deported again from Abu Dhabi, and now he's back in Egypt, okay? Long story short, he goes and asks me for money, right? And I'm like thinking, the nerve of this guy. And look, I got to be honest with you, that when he was here in the United States, he was a complete asshole to the core, right? Like, I mean, if you think I, can be an asshole, this guy was an unreasonable asshole. See, there's assholes, and then there's guys that are assholes that you can't reason with. He was the latter, okay? I'm not the latter, right? If I'm going to be an asshole, at least you could reason with me on things. You see that, if we have an intellectual discourse on certain things, I would give you a chance to try and prove me wrong, and I would not try to pride myself in being, pretending that I'm right for something that can be proven to be wrong. He was not that guy. Well, anyways, I'm like thinking, man, I said to him, whatever problems you had going on, I don't want to say what kind of problems he had going on, because I mean, that would just be, kind of cutting down the lines of, really breaking down a man's dignity. But anyways, he had certain problems, and to which why he needed money. And so I just replied and said to him, no way, because I told him, I know that it's not going to come back. You're in a foreign country. And then he tries to like sway me into saying, hey, I know this guy that, asked, that I asked, he said he was going to send me. I'm like, well, ask him. You're not going to get it from me. All right. And then that was that. So yeah, man, never lend money out to people. If you're going to give money, you might as well just make it an intention that you're going to give it for charity, because the truth of the matter is it will never come back. So
you just gotta say, here you go, and and you try to make sure that the money doesn't destroy relationships. Is what I really try to focus on in my life. I care more about people than I do money, so I always just try to make sure the money doesn't destroy any of my relationships that I care about.
It was interesting. You gave another interview where you were talking about how you run your business, and you were saying that you don't care whether people get in at 2 minutes past 9, as long as they do the work, right? So if they finish it at 9 o'clock at night, that's fine. But also you said that if they've got a family and they've got a kid who's got a school match or a play or whatever it may be.
You know what? This is a very important conversation that Pierce and Dana White are going to have going on here, right? For an American company like the UFC, they don't behave like an American company in terms of like, I'm not talking about the fighters, because God knows, right? The way that they treat their fighters, it is, North Korea level oppression, right? Let's be, really honest about that. But we're talking about the UFC employees, the ones that are in the media, the ones that are in the PR team, the ones that work with lawyers, the ones that work with contract negotiations, the ones that work with event coordination, right? All the small stuff that puts these shows together, right? Not the fighters, because the fighters are actually, for all intents and purposes, independent contractors, right? Whereas with the UFC staff, they are actual staff members. I think it is absolutely disgusting the way that the American workplace, treats their employees, right? And sometimes, there are companies that sort of try to steer into a different direction, right? Which is good. But the majority of them do the opposite of what Dana White does here. And I want you to hear this to understand the opposite trend that I'm talking about.
I want them to feel they can go to those things. And I thought that was such a refreshing attitude for a boss.
He's saying that, what Pierce Morgan was saying before, you missed that. He's saying that I think that it's important that a boss allows their employees to go see their kids' matches, their daughters' plays, or, if one of their teenagers has a prom going on or some sort of event, right? Or a birthday, or, maybe have some sick days and whatnot, right? Not this 9 to 5 situation where you clock in, you clock out. I like his approach to how he runs the business. He says, go in there, Go in there, do your work, and if you need to do your work from 9 to 9, then so be it. If you can do your work from 9 to 12 and you want to go home the rest of the day, so be it. Now, obviously, different jobs and different work sectors are a little bit different, right? They are not going to necessarily operate in that particular matter, right? The way that they're going to operate is sort of in a matter where, you know, you're a fireman, right? So there's really no time limit in that. You're in a healthcare business. There's no time limit in that. You're a police officer. There's no time limit in that. But if you're in an office working setting, this is the perfect way that Dana White approaches it. Matua says, LOL, North Korea level oppression is a beautiful hyperbole. Yes, yes.
Sort of major company to have, because so many bosses, I think, have a sort of negative view of that kind of thing. You've got to be in there. You've got to be in there 5 days a week, 9 to 8. You know, there's no time. If your family comes first, you're not for us. You seem to have.
I remember I was going to go to work for this place. What was it called? Parker and Son or something like that. I don't know what they were. They were like, they were an HVAC place, right? You basically, you know, you working in a dispatch to, you know, call in, you know, guys that, you know, do HVAC work to, you know, set them up for appointments or, you know, or whatever, right? So, you know, I remember the HR that was there, she was kind of joking around saying, yeah, you better be prepared for to not have a life. And I'm like thinking, oh man, I'm out. I'm not, you know, doing none of this, right? You know, go hire like, you know, these stupid 20-year-olds that, you know, really have no life outside of what they have going on, and they're willing to like take up the oppression that you got going on. But yeah, listen to this. It kind of goes into that subject with what Pierce Morgan is talking about here.
Have that work-life balance for you and your team the way it should be.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's very important to me. So my team that works here, you know, we go every Saturday. There's a lot of traveling involved, and in the summertime, I throw big parties out back here. I do like carnivals and stuff, and I want them to bring their kids to the office and see where their parents work, and you know, make it a fun place, you know, for their families too. On this board here, I got fights. March 7th is this weekend, and then we go all the way to June 20th that we lay out. And once we start getting into this, you know, you get into the year, it's just like boom, 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 boom. Now my kids are, my two boys are 23 and 24, and my daughter is 19, and they're all out of my house. And it went by so fast. Now, everybody that works here is an animal. I have a building full of animals here. My team is incredible. And they're all grown-ups. They know what they need to do. They know what needs to be done. And I don't care when they get their job done. It could be at 3 in the afternoon, or it can be at 3 in the morning. This building's 24 hours. And if your kid has...
I like that. It could be done at 3 a.m. in the afternoon or 3 a.m. in the morning, right? And that's the way that it should be.
A game, a play, a parent-teacher conference, anything like that. Get the hell out of here and go do that stuff and be there for your kids and enjoy these moments with your family, because it's going to go by quick. And
that's beautiful of Dana White to say that, right? Well, depends on the job. Well, here's the thing, right? What exactly does the UFC do, right? You know what? The UFC does literally the same things that we do in the MMA streaming world, right? There's a fight going on. We talk about it. We make production behind it. We make, you know, videos about it. We do live streams about it. We prepare, you know, press conference like podcast episodes like this, right? This is like something that you would sort of, you know, kind of compare to a press conference, right? We know what needs to be done, right? Like, for example, the other guy said the other day, oh, you know, you're here live streaming all the time. Well, yeah, because I understand the algorithm that I need to be here on a certain time. I know which time hits certain algorithms. And then on top of that, I also have to do research before I get in here and, you know, have the production, have the thumbnails and this and that. So I know what to do. And, you know, there were streams where I would do it at, you know, very late at night. You know, and then there are streams where I do it in the morning. But either way, I'm getting it done. So you're right. It does depend on the job. but I would say that their job is very similar to that of the content creator, right? So
I'm all about that. You know, there's no, hey, it's 9:05. Where's Eric? Why is he not at the office yet? If I need Eric, I'll find Eric and I'll track him down. And you know, but yeah, I don't want people to sacrifice their relationship with their kids and their families for work.
that's beautiful. That is beautiful, right? And by the way, for an American company like the UFC, obviously the UFC is an American company. I'm sure they have offices around the world as well, but Dana only encompasses the office of Las Vegas, which entail is an American company in an American city in an American work environment. And that right there is very un-American. Okay, like obviously Dana is as American as they come, right? That there's no doubt about that. But that practice of that workplace is non-American like for the positive reasons. Okay, there's obviously a lot of good positive reasons for American culture, the hustle American culture, the Kobe Bryant, Black Mamba mentality. All of this is great, right? All of this is part of the fabric in, American work culture. And by the way, American work culture comes from the days of the Pilgrims. Okay, that is where, the modern American ethos of, work ethic comes from. The Pilgrims that came into the United States. So when the Pilgrims came into the United States, they believed that, working hard is good, that there's nobility in working hard and putting in a lot of hours and putting in a lot of good sweat when you're out there farming, right? Building stuff, building infrastructures. There's a lot of good positivity with that. But at the same time, I think Dana White, being that he says that, all right, he works with a lot of people that are straight animals, people that are hard workers, and I believe him for that, but it seems that they have a very good, positive work and life balance environment. And guess what? When you cultivate a place like that, you're going to create a work environment where people want to work there. People feel motivated to work there. Instead of going there, oh man, you know what? I got to go in here and deal with this asshole named Steve, who's my HR. Oh God, I'm going to dread this day, right? Not Dana White. He made it a very fun and very interactive place for him to be around. So,
do you think you're a good father, then?
Try to be. It's important to me. So it's a very high priority on my list. So I try to be.
My dad's given me two pieces of advice that I can remember. He's still with us. One was always be polite to police officers, and the other one was always drink the best French wine you can afford. Both excellent pieces of advice. But what advice do you try and give? What advice do you try and give your kids?
I always try to tell my kids, I don't ever want my kids to feel like they have to compete with anything that I've ever done in my life. I want my kids to choose their own path, and the only thing I care about is that they're happy. If my kids came and told me, Dad, I want to pump gas for a living because I love getting up early in the morning, I love the smell, I love love it. Knock yourself out. I'm not trying to have my kids be doctors or lawyers or businessmen, I just want my kids to live happy, full lives, and that's it.
Can I be honest with you? I think that is easy for Dana White to say that because he is a multi-billionaire whose kids are going to inherit that multi-billion-dollar empire, not necessarily the UFC, obviously, right? Because, once Dana White is gone from that job, they're going to find somebody that's going to replace him. But what remains is the billions of dollars that Dana White has made with the UFC. So they're going to inherit that empire regardless, right? Either way, I think it's easy for him to say that, whereas there are families out there that do want their kids to prosper in certain, sectors of certain, work environments, or accomplish certain goals for family legacy, or just for the necessity of economic prosperity. But once again, I think it's just easy for him to say that.
Oh, what's that? I just built a budgeting app. Nina just built an app.
One of the things you mentioned, that money can ruin relationships, which is obviously so true. but so can politics, and there's nobody that is more divisive in that sense, I guess, than Donald Trump. You and I have been friends of his for a couple of...
Oh, here we go. Here we go. You know, the Donald Trump conversation, of course, that has to come up with Dana White.
For decades. And we've seen the good, bad, and ugly of him, and, he's a unique character. As my daughter put it, he's almost too unique. But he's someone we've known very well for a long time. If you say you're a friend of Donald Trump, as you've discovered and I discover, there's a lot of people that instantly that puts their shackles up. They hate you. They want to judge you for it. And I've seen families break down over this. Relationships, friendships, work colleagues all falling out over Trump. Politics.
Mr. Burberry says, "What's up, my guy? Hope as well, man. Shout out to you, Mr. Burberry, man. We're getting all the old school, chat guys in here from when I first really started doing live streams, man. Shout out to you. Thank you for tapping in, my man. Hope you're enjoying the show. Now, speaking of divisiveness that Piers Morgan is talking about here, right? I told you there was this half American, half English woman who was shot by her American father in Texas over an argument with Trump. Now, that investigation fell on deaf ears because it's Texas. Obviously, they're pro-Trump, and you know how that goes. It was actually a local British police force from her hometown, her mother's hometown, that pushed the issue on these Texas law enforcement officers, right? But that kind of shows you how divisive, Trump can be, and in the way that Piers Morgan is sort of describing it. Samuel Pronto says, Trump makes me sick every day. Trump this, Trump that. Yeah, correct, man. I think I kind of share your sentiment, bro. And also, let me tell you what I hate about this, too, right? I hate that people assess your political leanings, assess your performative, gestures of good faith through whether you like Donald Trump or not. You know what I mean? Like, I that's what I hate. Like, I remember when I did the Charlie Kirk live stream, right? He says, I live in Amsterdam. Man, shout out to you in Amsterdam, my man. Yeah, man, that's awesome, bro. Amsterdam, very beautiful city, and obviously Netherlands, a beautiful country overall as well. But yeah, hold on a second. What was I saying here? Let me rewind this back real quick, just so I can kind of, he said thanks. Hold on a second here. What was I saying here? Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. You guys, I'm fasting for Ramadan right now, so yeah, just starting out the first couple of hours of fasting. So, what is this? Is that MGK? What is that? What is this commercial? Weird ass commercial for a Journey store. Hold on a second here. I'm trying to track back what I was saying here. Hold on a second here. Court is up. Starting out Ramadan. Let's go back. Beautiful country overall as well. Awesome. He says, I live in it. And that's what I faith through whether you like Donald Trump or performative. Yeah. I hate that, okay, so when I was doing the Charlie Kirk stream, when I was doing the Charlie Kirk stream, I obviously was saying a lot of things in a very neutral manner, right? I would call it like it is, right? I would say, things that Charlie Kirk did that was good, and then I would say things that Charlie Kirk did that was bad. Very fair and objective. This is one of the comments, and by the way, that got like 31,000 views, right? My most, highest live stream ever till this day, right? Reacting to the Charlie Kirk, shooting, hours after it happened, right? So obviously it was going to be 31,000 because, a lot of people were really interested in the story, but, okay, so, they asked me, is this guy, do you support Trump or not support Trump? And I'm like, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Like, I'm giving you the objective take on these matters. Well, it matters because we want to know where you stand. Well, I'm not really telling you where I stand. I'm sort of telling you how it is, right? So, that kind of shows you a bit of the Trump derangement syndrome process going on there. Samuel Pronto says Trump is good, but the way he does things is a little bit scary. Yeah. I would have to agree with that. All right. So Connor Siller BJJ says no more red versus blue. The people versus the elite. You know what? At some point, you know, I think it's going to start to become like that, right? If you look at the black pill conservative American movement, right? Well, let me give you an example of what the black pill conservative American movement is. Tucker Carlson, conservative, but doesn't like Israel and is very critical of Trump. Candace Owens, the same thing, conservative, but doesn't necessarily like Trump and certainly does not like Israel. Nick Fuentes, Andrew Tate, Sneeko. These are the alternative right. Well, I mean, is it right to, you know, kind of classify them as the alternative right? I mean, something to that extent, right? But yeah. That right there is what is kind of dividing the country right now and sort of gearing it towards that situation of elite versus, you know, the people versus the elite type of thing, as Connor Sillers BJJ has mentioned here. Gordo Tex, shout out to you, man. He says, that's the problem. People judge you by politics. Pathetic. Yes. You know, it was really weird. They're like, so does this guy like Trump or does he not like Trump? I don't know if I should like this guy. You know what I mean? Like, that was sort of like the way that they, you know, kind of approached it. Like, all right, we know that you talk very well. We know that you are very articulated. We know that you sound like a newscaster. But we don't know what kind of newscaster you are. Are you a CNN type of newscaster? Or are you a Fox News type of newscaster? You got to let us know. Do you like Trump or not? We have to know if we're going to label you with Trump derangement syndrome. That's what it was like. That's what it felt like reading these chats from, you know, these diehard Trump magtards.
Generally, but particularly Trump. You must get that all the time because you speak out in support of him. How do you deal with that? What's your view of that?
It's a fascinating thing because I have a lot of relationships, obviously, with people who are very conservative, but I have really good relationships with people who are very liberal, too. You know, back when we grew up, you didn't talk about religion or politics. You know, now I think these things have changed everything. So it's just, you know, it's a different world we live in. But I'm not as political as everybody thinks I am. So when I'm around, I don't really talk a lot of politics. And any time that I've ever spoke at the Republican convention or for Trump or at any of his rallies, you never hear me putting down the other side. I never put down the other side or any of that type of stuff.
Well, he did make fun of Biden one time, right? There was a question towards Dana White that he was asked, hey, are you afraid if Biden wins that he's going to go after your business? Dana White said the most gangster thing ever that I could not, you know, forget till this day, right? He said, yeah, you know, to be honest with you guys, I don't think Biden knows who I am. Yeah, I don't think Biden knows who I am. And then here comes the punchline. I don't think Biden even knows who he is. He says, yeah, everybody roasts Biden, right? I mean, think about it, right? The reporter asks him, are you afraid that Biden's going to come after you if he wins? He says, I don't think Biden knows who I am. And then he says, drop in the punchline, I don't think Biden knows who Biden is. And then everybody laughed. Oh, man, Dana with the mic drop moment, bro. So, yes, he does kind of make fun of the other side, but not in a disrespectful way. He's not saying, like, oh, you libtard or this and that. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't, you know, go full throttle or anything like that. He says, Joe Biden is a lizard. You know, Joe Biden, you know, I can talk to you about this, Connor, since you're an Irish guy, right? Joe Biden is of Irish descent, right? Did you know that? He's of Irish descent. And a lot of British politicians were sort of complaining that a lot of the stances that Biden took when he was in office was sort of anti-British due to his sentiments and loyalty towards the Irish sentiments, right? So I thought that was really interesting, right? That Biden, you know, even after becoming an American president, kind of holds on to those, you know, Irish sentiments against the British. Very interesting stuff.
I can have
He says, yeah, but he's a proper melt. Yeah, but he's a proper melt. You're not an Irishman. You're a proper melt, Joe Biden. Joe Biden, you've got to get the fuck up out of here. You was a proper melt, mate.
My opinion, and Donald Trump is a very good friend of mine, and he's a great human being, and I love the guy. I mean, every time I was just with him last week again, and for 2 days after I left him, I was cracking up laughing about stuff that he said while I was there. He's hilarious, and he's an animal. He is literally the hardest working guy I know. He loves this country, and he cares about people, and you know.
He does not care. Dana, stop it. Stop it, Dana. He doesn't care about people. Look, when he says that he loves this country, what he means is that he loves running the country. Okay, there's a difference. Okay, there's a difference between loving the country. Look, I've been in positions before where, you know, I was helping to run things, right? I like running things. I don't necessarily like the company itself. You know what I mean? In fact, like the company, I mean, yeah, you know, it's one of them things, innit? One of them things, innit, bruv?
How he is being portrayed by the media is actually gross. It's gross the way that they portray him, because he's the furthest thing from it. But is he an alpha male?
Well, Dana, he also kind of brings it upon himself. But okay, I understand he's your homie. You gotta, you know, do the homie thing and do what homies do, and that's defend your homie. I get it.
No, he is an alpha male, and he's a tough guy, man.
Survivors of sexual abuse in more
What
than
the
60
heck,
California
man?
youth
I
facilities
hate this
may
commercial.
qualify to
I
file a
hate this commercial. I hate this commercial.
What do you think of what is
All
happening
right.
at the moment with Iran? It's the big news story at the moment. Do you have a view about it?
Not really. I mean, I do in ways, but again, not anything that I would talk about publicly. You know,
All right, I kind of like that answer. He says, not anything I would talk about publicly. I really like that answer. You want to know why I like that answer? Because it's kind of like, you know what? We can kind of guess that Dana has controversial takes on that matter, but he refuses to kind of engage in it. And yeah, respect to Dana White. I got it, man.
that's what I'm talking about politically. Whether it's, listen, the United States is doing it what the United States is going to do. Regular citizens like us, you know, you can support it or not support it, or feel however you want to feel about it, but it's going to happen. That's that. Just deal with it.
On June the 14th, which happens to be Donald Trump's 80th birthday, as part of America's celebrations of the 250th year of that shameful moment when...
All right, we're back. Let me make sure that this is back right here. All right, we're back. Let me make sure that this is back. Okay, all right, back to what Dana White's talking about here.
That's Michael Bisping, some funny meme about leaving England. It's awesome. I love it. Yeah.
You know, you could have had King Piers the First if you played your cards right, but instead you went your own lonely furrow. But there's gonna be this big UFC event at the White House in front of 5,000 people on the White House South Lawn. It's completely unprecedented. It's going to be an amazing spectacle. A lot of speculation about who may be on that bill, particularly that John Jones, who I think last time I spoke to you said was the greatest of all the UFC fighters, that he might come out of retirement to take on Alex Pereira. Can you confirm that? Can you give me the scoop?
So I'm in the war room right now. All the fights, like I told you, March 7th all the way to June 20th are laid out. We've kept this card so private and secret. Lene, my head of PR, is sitting right across from me, and behind her is this big whiteboard that we moved in here. And the whole card is laid out right here on the whiteboard.
So you know who it is?
I'm looking at it right now. I'm staring at all 6 fights. We're scheduled to do 6 fights.
Are you looking at the names? Are you looking at the name John Jones as you stare at that whiteboard?
We're going to do 6 fights. I might actually do 7. I might add 1 more, but yeah, I'm excited. I'll announce.
Well, the word is
this
the,
week.
The word is your surprise addition may be Conor McGregor.
Interesting. You know, it's funny. Every day when I wake up, somebody will send me leaked. This fight's happening. Like all these guys on the internet are putting like every fight that is possible to make out there that it's going to happen at the White House. I think if they keep throwing enough shit out there, something's going to stick, and eventually they have to be right. You know what I mean? There's only everybody in each weight class, the top 15. You know, they keep putting together every fight that's possible, so eventually they're going to be right. But yeah,
Are you going to answer it? It'll be announced this week.
Yeah.
And have you had to clear the names with the president? Is he taking an active participation role in this?
Listen. The president's got more important shit to do right now than worry about the card. He's a big UFC fan, and obviously he trusts.
All right, so that's good to know that Donald Trump is not going to be involved in the matchmaking.
Me and knows that I'm going to bring the best available card and the best production anybody's ever seen. The production on this fight is so incredible. It is going to be a one-of-one special event. And not just for the fighters and the fans, but for my staff that gets to work this event. It's going to be incredible.
Any chance of an eighth bout in the ring between you and Eddie Hearn?
No. How old's Eddie Hearn? How old's Eddie? In his 40s or something? He's still pretty young, I think.
He's a big unit. He probably fancies it.
Yeah, he's huge.
He did box boxed his dad. Yeah.
What? Hold up. Eddie Hearn boxed his dad? That's crazy. Hold up.
Who do you think would win if you had a fight? He boxed his dad, yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. We were talking about this earlier. First of all, we're both too old. That would have to be like a Jake Paul Netflix card, okay?
Oh, man. Look at Piers Morgan playing matchmaker over here. Oh, Piers. You cheeky little man, you. You cheeky little man, Piers. You're over here trying to make a match between Dana White and Eddie Hearn. You cheeky little bastard, you bruv. You cheeky little man, yeah. He's trying to play matchmaker.
We're in his age bracket of guys he likes to fight. And I don't know. Did Eddie Hearn box his dad? And who won?
They actually got in the ring. You know, when Eddie was in his teens, he got in the ring with his dad, and they went about 3 or 4 rounds. And I think Eddie won, and Barry walked away. But the age difference then was a little bit more than it is between you and Eddie now. I mean, Eddie has a 10-year advantage over you. He's got the youth, but you are Dana White. You are the biggest animal in world sport. You know, if it actually happened, who would win?
Listen, if Eddie wants to box, we can box. We can box if Eddie wants to box.
Ooh.
I don't think Eddie wants to box.
Would you?
Ooh. Yo. Hold up. Yo, he's really down for this. He says, how would Deontay Wilder do in the UFC if he was an MMA fighter? Horrible. But you know what? You never know. It is the heavyweight division, right? I think Anthony Joshua, I think Islam Makhachev was sort of teasing, sort of teasing the idea that, hey, we could, bring you in here and, have you box or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'm not box, fight in MMA. Anthony Joshua is a very athletic man, right? He has the type of body frame that could probably be good for wrestling, right? I think he could pick up wrestling very well. But I don't know, Deontay Wilder, man, he just seems like he would probably be like a Conor McGregor type of MMA fighter, right? He would have a nuclear hand that could knock anybody out. But, other than that, shout out to John Dong, man. Shout out to you, man. What's up, my boy? Nico Bellic says, I think he would be much more dangerous than Francis Ngannou. You're talking about Deontay Wilder more dangerous than Francis Ngannou? I mean, you know what? He does have, the perfect skinny MMA frame, right? If that makes any sense, right? Sort of like that, Khamzat Chimaev, early John Jones type of body type, maybe, He says, how do you think Kyle Dawkins versus Bo Nickel would go? Bo Nickel. I think Bo Nickel would win by submission on that one.
Would you be confident?
Yeah, listen, I used to, back in the day, I used to box with all the guys, boxers and UFC guys. I have boxed.
So if Eddie Hearn's up for it, you're on for it.
Absolutely.
I might promote that. I want to talk to you just about somebody that I interviewed, Dana, a while ago, Tom Aspinall. He obviously was your heavyweight champion. He's recovering from double eye surgery.
He is my heavyweight champion.
He is your heavyweight champion, right? Yeah. What is the situation with Tom? Because he had this eye surgery. In my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you've not had any personal contact with him since then. What is the current state of play with Tom?
Yeah, the company has talked to him. I haven't talked to him, and Tom and I obviously need to talk. He came out recently, or his dad too, saying that they felt like I was, I don't know how they said it, but that I had sort of shit on him, and the way that I.
Nico Bellic says, looking at Dana's happy face, I think he's going to get Jones, Pereira, Topuria, and McGregor on the same card. I mean, listen, that happy face, is it because he's getting those people or just because he just wakes up as a billionaire every day? I don't know. You know what I mean? But I hope that's the reason why his happy face would be that. That would be great and awesome. He says, I smash McNuggets. Dagestani Handcuff. Yo, that is an awesome nickname, bro. That is an awesome screen name. Shout out to Dagestani Handcuff. Dagestani Handcuff, I usually ask people what part of the world they are from here, but I think I would be, completely low IQ for me to ask where you are from. Hello, brother. Welcome. Welcome, your brother. Dagestani Handcuff. Yes, Dagestan. Dagestan is number one, brother. Number one. Number one, we smash people, and then we wave our fingers like this while we smash people, and then we say, yes, number one. But no, this is not number one, brother. When we do this is same thing. When we do prayer, is like this. We say Allah is number one, brother. This is the same thing. He says Dana White's face doesn't look off, which gives hope for the White House card. Well, tomorrow, I mean, obviously, that's great. We're going to have to... obviously live stream the fight tomorrow, which we will. We will live stream the fight tomorrow, and we will get that huge announcement. A classic Kyrie Abu El-Kheer MMA, stream tomorrow. So, Dagestani Handcuff says, E.T. sleepy trainee. Yes, okay. This is what we do, brother. We eat, we sleep, and we train. Okay? And then you send location for us to smash, brother. That is it. We smash everybody. Okay? Is it. We smash everybody. Hey, Dana White, put me in UFC White House card, please. Okay? And then I bring Putin with me, and maybe he can talk to Trump. And he talk to Trump, then maybe we stop this war with Ukraine. Okay? We stop this. We stop this. He's no good. All bloodshed. Everybody fighting. Everybody dying. He's no good, brother. He's no good. Free Palestine, brother. Okay.
I had spoke about, his eye injury, which was absolutely positively not the case. Tom Aspinall is a guy that I respect. He's been great, to work with, the whole time he's been here in the UFC. And, never once did I question his injury or speak negatively about it. I said something once that I said, I think he's okay, and I think he's going to be good. And they came out and said, no, that's not the case. And he said, I haven't even talked to Dana. I don't know why he would say that. But, obviously, my medical team is talking to him, and that was what I had thought. And they thought that I had knocked him in some way, which I absolutely positively didn't and wouldn't. I like him very much and respect him. I've never had a problem with Tom Aspinall.
Do you think he'll fight again?
I do.
Hold up. Did you see that? Hey, listen. Did you see that? Okay. Dana's trying to hold something back here. Okay, he says, I do. I want you to watch the body language of Dana White real quick. Okay, let me see here. Nico says, Bo Nickel just needs to improve his striking. He possesses a threat to Shamaev stylistically. Okay. Dagestani Handcuff says, nobody attack Dagestan because missiles have zero grappling, brother. They have zero grappling. They cannot attack Dagestan because we all are going to wrestle the missiles. It's very easy. We wrestle missiles all the time. Is no problem. Khabib, he wrestled bear, but us, we wrestle missiles in Chechnya. In Dagestan, they wrestle bears. In Chechnya, we wrestle the missile. Very easy, brother. It's easy work. Easy work like Floyd Mayweather. But Floyd Mayweather's bitch-ass motherfucker because he like Israel. Anyways, yes. I fast for Ramadan. I cannot curse. He's not good, brother. He's not good. No. Nico Bellic says, Bo Nickel with improved striking mops the floor with Shamaev. Unfortunately, his striking got exposed in the RDR fight. Facts. I think every RDR fight, they are going to look to try and exploit him in that, in that particular sequence. John Dong says, before Gon versus Aspinall happened, who were you picking? Oh, Aspinall. Straight out, yeah. Aspinall. I'm not going to pretend like, I was picking Gon. I had a few homies, that were picking Gon, but I think they were picking him because he's the black guy, okay? But not indicative of their knowledge to MMA, right? These were not like MMA guys, they just saw Cyril Gane at a Netflix movie, and they're like, oh, okay, light-skinned brother from France, we're going to go with him. You know what I mean? And not necessarily out of, out of an intelligence, apparatus of a type of pick. You know what I mean? Like an MMA intelligence apparatus type of pick. Just more of, the guy looks like me, so, I want him to beat up this, punk-ass British white boy. That type of thing. You know what I mean? So, and in turn, they were right. Because, Tom Aspinall looked like, the punk-ass British white boy in that fight. So, there you have it. So, they were right in their assessment, even though I suspect that assessment was not out of, technical understanding of the sport. So, but yeah, they were right by the end of the day. They were right. That's just what it is. So, yeah.
Is that from conversations his team have had with your team?
Well, he's still dealing with whatever's going on with his eyes. And obviously over the last 30 years of being in this business, I've seen, injuries that I questioned whether guys would come back from, and they always have, including eye pokes. But who knows? But if you ask me, sitting right here, right now, do I think Tom Aspinall will compete again? I would say yes.
Your health deserves more than guesswork. At Pronuvo, our whole body MRI scans for hundreds.
Just finally, Dana, what ambitions do you have left? You conquered UFC, you're conquering boxing. Is there a bigger ambition for you, either professionally or personally, that you can talk about?
Well, as we continue to build TKO, when you think about what we've done already, has never been done in the history of combat sports. Now getting into boxing, and I've always had this I don't know what you call it, goal, I guess. When I grew up here in the United States, we had Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 8, Channel 13. And then cable came when I was in high school, 30 channels, and then the rest is history, we all know. I believe that Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 8, and 13 will exist again, but globally. And who are the players going to be? Paramount's making big moves right now. Netflix is a monster, So when you think about my business, right, the fight business as a whole, I got Slap, which is absolutely killing it. UFC's killing it. Boxing's on the right track. And when you think about the ceiling for combat sports, there's 8 billion people in the world. And now we're getting to a point in our lives where streaming is becoming a reality globally. So when you put on the right fight in the right place with the right guys, what is your ceiling? Your ceiling is 8 billion people. And I just love the idea of that. and I love the idea of just building this absolute machine that has never been done before. Plus, all the people that have told me for the last 25 years that this can't be done, that can't be done. Even when I started Power Slap, everybody was like, this is stupid. This is never going to work. This is never going to, and it's the same things they said to me about UFC. And Pierce, I love that stuff. I love it. Love it. It's what gets me out of bed.
I've got to be honest. If you come to me with the idea of Power Slap, I'd have thought you'd lost your mind. I'd have said there's absolutely no way that it...
Yeah, we still think that, by the way, Pierce. We still think that. We still think that Dana is out of his mind. But for whatever reason, Dana still thinks it's a good idea. But apparently the numbers sort of support that. So...
ever going to catch on. And yet now it's one of the biggest money spinners in world sport, right?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's been incredibly successful. In just 2 years, we have over 30 million followers. Our YouTube channel, which I'm a big believer in building your own channels out there, and our YouTube channel has over 4 million subscribers for Power Slap, and growing. So I sort of have this feeling I get, gut you could call it. When I started watching Power Slap on Instagram, what fascinated me is that I'm so jaded by the fight business. I would stick around to the end. I wanted to see who won and how. And, I'm like, if I feel like this, lots of other people. And again, Pierce, the world is getting smaller every year. So, everybody thinks that, oh, my God, Power Slap is ridiculous. This thing is silly. Well, I don't need everybody to like it. There's 8 billion people on Earth. I only need this many people to like it, and it's incredibly successful.
Yeah, it's so true.
You know what? That's a very interesting take by Dana White, right? Because what he's basically saying is that, you know what? You may not like it, but there's plenty of people around the world that are going to like it, right? And once again, that's why I tell you guys, not everything is for everybody. All right, so I think this is going to conclude right now, and then we're going to get to the Tom Aspinall press conference.
You've got your Zuffa Boxing Championship belt being contested for the very first time. Just give me a bit of meat on the bone about that.
Yeah, so Jairo Batalla is, the best cruiserweight in the world and one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. He's 29-0. He's got 23 knockouts, and he's taking on Brandon Glanton, who's 21-3 with 18 knockouts, and he's coming off a big upset win in his last fight. Both of these guys, Glanton's got like an 86% knockout ratio, and Jairo Batalla's got an 80% knockout ratio. I'm super excited for this fight, and it's for the first ever Zuffa belt. So one of these guys is going to walk out the Zuffa Cruiserweight champion this weekend.
All right.
Well, exciting. Dana, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you
I
very
would
much for taking
definitely recommend TurboTax. My tax
expert. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Have a great day.
All right, so let's get to the Tom Aspinall press conference with Eddie Hearn. Let's get to that real quick right here. Oh, wow. Okay, so here it is. All right, full press conference. Here we go. Here we go. We got the full press conference going on right here. All right. Let's get this thing cracking right here. Oh, hold on. All right, let's get to the Tom Aspinall.
She was amazing. She answered all of my questions. It all just felt super easy and transparent.
Okay, here we go. All right.
And with the fans, to get what they deserve. To stand by that would be the full self, and why was you
speaks for itself. The announcement. Well, isn't it, boxing and sport at times. Eddie, firstly, to you, look, we saw the announcement last night. You said it would break the internet. I think the response speaks for itself, really. But firstly, just about the Matchroom Talent Agency, before we talk about your first signing, where did this idea come from yourself, and why was this something that you wanted to start?
I mean, ultimately, we've represented athletes for over 40 years. Now, I started my professional career as a sports agent, you know, dealing with all kinds of different sportsmen, you know, across PGA Tour.
I didn't know Eddie Hearn was a sports agent, but that makes sense. Okay, and I guess this whole thing makes sense as well. He says, wow, you are such a hater. Why bring Tom's ethnicity for a reason? Bro, I'm not, bro. I was joking, right? And I was merely talking about what other people were describing him as when they were picking either Tom Aspinall or Cyril Gahn, right? You know, but it's just all banter, as the British say. So,
cricket, rugby, and I know how to look after athletes, but I also know how to drive value for athletes. I know how to build brands. I know how to build profile. I know how to stand alongside them. And more importantly, I know how to get what they deserve. So I always felt like, you know, you've seen discussions with AJ across the football market and stuff like that. I felt like it was a natural progression with our relationship with the talent, with the relationship with broadcasters, with sponsors, and with the fans, that we could actually have a pretty amazing project on our hands in terms of athlete representation. Given everything that's happening at the moment around the world, across the boxing space, across the MMA space, the conversation started actually with Michael Rideout, you know, of The Zone, where he was talking about Tom Aspinall. And I know, you know, the past, there's been a couple of conversations, and I looked at this man who is really the flagship of the UFC in terms of that profile of the undisputed heavyweight champion. We all know that in our sport, that is the absolute coup de grace. There's nothing bigger. And, you know, I know that he's been through a little bit of a tough time lately, and it was really one conversation on Zoom, and I just thought to myself, this guy needs some proper representation. I mean, what you're looking at is...
proper representation. He needs some proper representation. Another Englishman to help him out.
He's one of the greatest fighters in the UFC. As I said, the undisputed heavyweight world champion. He is a man of the people. He's a real fighting man of integrity. And he's a stone cold killer as well. So how is this guy not an even bigger star that he is? How does he not have the backing? How is he not respected in certain rooms in the way that he should be? So couple that with the politics of everything that's going on, and a cool little story as well.
Well, facts, Nico Bellic. Can't lie about that. He says, your impression, bro, love him. Yes. You know, Tom Aspinall is an absolute superstar, okay? Stone cold killer. And for whatever reason, the UFC has put him in a back pocket, mate, okay? He needs a higher profile, and I'm the man to be able to do that. You understand? The man from Essex. Eddie Hearn, the man from Essex. Okay, now I'm delving into a Tyson Fury accent.
So what we can create is the hype and the news that will, as we said, blow up the internet. And that's what it's done. Within 12 hours, you've seen what we do. You've seen the noise that we create. And now it's about moving forward with Tom, building him commercially, building his profile, growing that relationship with brands and fans, and also making sure... that we stick it to Dana White, yeah? You know, that is one thing we need to do about this whole entire thing, Tom. Okay, we've got to stick it to Dana White, okay? Because he was going to slag you off, yeah? You know, you got your eye poked out, and all of a sudden he slags you off, writes you off, says that you're nothing. But me, I'm going to do the complete opposite, and I'm going to build your profile, yeah? He says, Nico Bellic, you cry about racism and Islamophobia all the time, and then you bring Tom's ethnicity. Okay, enough with that already, dude. You know, I was literally talking about what other people were saying about Tom Aspinall when a bunch of homies were, you know, giving me their personal picks on the fight.
you know, such a hypocrite you are. Okay, I am what I am, you know what I mean? And you're just a guy with a name of a video game character. Meanwhile, I'm a real-life video game character, real-life GTA in real life. So there it is, right? You know what I mean? Who's the real hypocrite now? He says, maybe Strickland is right about your people. Well, you know what? Strickland isn't right about a lot of things, and Strickland is right about the fact that he got molested by his dad, and that's the reason why he has underlying issues. Ooh, maybe like you, perhaps.
He gets what he absolutely deserves for the commercial power that he has as a fighter.
Tom, welcome to the Matchroom Talent Agency, of course. First of all, when the conversation started happening with Eddie, he said it was
Nico Bellic is a wanker. Nico Bellic is a wanker. Wanker, wanker. Use a wanker. Use a wanker.
just one Zoom call. What excited you about the vision, first of all, that was put to you by El-Kheer and the Matchroom Talent Agency?
I think, like most people in combat sports, I've been following Eddie and Matchroom for a long time. I know all about him. I've got mutual friends who work with him and stuff. And when I spoke to Eddie, it just seemed like it worked. It made a lot of sense to me. I think as UFC fighters, we are in contracts that we can't change, but there's a lot of value that we can make outside of the cage as well. Eddie's seen that. That's what me and my small team thought for a long time, but I wanted to just expand the team a little bit and, you know, broaden my horizons a little bit and make as much money commercially outside the octagon as well as inside. And Eddie and Matchroom are on board with that, so I'm on board with them.
Dagestani Handcuff says, I am brother from Dagestan. Yes, we know you are brother from Dagestan. Your name in your screen name, it says the Dagestani Handcuff. Yes, we know you are from Dagestan, brother. Brother, listen. You do not need to explain to me, okay, that you shave your mustache like me, that you grow your beard like me, that you also hate the Shias like me, yeah? You know, you are Sunni. We don't like the Shias, okay? And we know you don't like Iran. Is okay. We understand, brother. This is why we shave our mustache, so we look different from the people. These people that don't shave their mustache, okay? That just, all these kuffar, all these kuffar things. Yes, brother, I know you are from Dagestan. Thank you for telling me. And I know that you are from Dagestan and that you are not like this stupid guy in Murab. This Murab guy, okay, he is from mountain like you. He live in mountain like you, but he's stupid guy, okay? He's stupid guy, he not like us, yes? He says, I thought you were El-Sheikh's voice. Who, Turkey El-Sheikh? Oh yeah, I'm gonna do an impression of him too, but you know, I'm afraid to get on the live, so.
Eddie, I mentioned that word, vision. What is your promise to Tom Aspinall? What is the vision at this stage?
Well, first is to make sure that he's recognised for the revenue that he drives. You know, ultimately, every sport is about the athlete and the talent. And we know when he steps in the octagon, we know what happens. Broadcasters pay a fortune. Every seat's filled in the arena. Every inch of that mat has a brand and a sponsor across it. And without the talent, without the fighters, that revenue can't be driven. And
D-Man, that's a very random impression. Hello, Helen. I can't do it, man. I can't do it, bro. I can't do it. That's a random impression, D-Man.
You are the elite of the elite.
I can do what's her name? It's the pro with the schmo. How you doing? You know, but he doesn't even sound like that. He really like insinuates his voice purposely.
You're the undisputed heavyweight champion. I said to him, you know, I don't want to. Sometimes when I say it, I don't want him to feel like to get offended by this because he'll snap my neck in two. But it's like when I spoke to him for the first time, it was like I was talking to someone that didn't really realise who he was or what he was, which is a massive star in this country and a massive global star, one of the biggest stars in fight sports. And as we say in boxing, effectively the baddest man on the planet, but in MMA. And, you know, now we've got an interesting future ahead. Sometimes a narrative can get spun on.
Yes, Tom Aspinall is massive, innit? You know what I mean? Tom Aspinall, he is the baddest man in the world, yeah? You know, and for whatever reason, he's not being recognized by the UFC as the baddest man ever. And I don't understand it. Okay? I bloody can't understand it, mate. I can't understand it at all. He should be absolutely respected as the baddest man in the world. Massive in it. Look at the size of his neck. Massive in it. He says massive pointer, brother.
You that one deflates your mojo and two can just make you feel like I don't really want to do it anymore. And when I spoke to him, we started talking about his injuries and, talking about the doctor stuff and the multiple surgeries that he's had. It was like...
The fake eye injury, you mean?
Mate, but we've got to bounce back from this. And you've got to realise how big you are. And I see a man that's very determined as a fighter to get back in there. And I say prove. He doesn't really need to prove. He's fought everyone that's been put in front of him. But he'll continue to do that and show the world how great he is.
Do you believe this has come at the right time for you as well then, Tom, as Eddie just touched on there? It has been a little bit of a frustrating period for you, but I imagine with an announcement like this, more motivated than ever.
Yeah, I think...
Yeah, well, I'm not quite that motivated. Yeah, I just want to take it nice and slow, take it nice and easy. I don't really want to be known as a UK hype train, so yeah.
Absolutely. Me and my team, now with Eddie and Matchroom on board, we want to get back in there as soon as possible, but obviously it has to be done at the right time. And these guys have come on board at the right time. I feel like I'm ready to move to the next step in terms of commercial value and stuff like that. And I'm motivated to get back in there.
Yeah, no, for real. Talk about commercial value. Check out the shoes. The man's got Jordans on. He's got designer jacket. He's got his hair, really slicked up. He's got a, nice looking watch. I mean, yeah, man. You know what, man? Eddie Hearn dressed him up for this, right? I think Eddie Hearn got him a stylist. That's what I think, right? Tom Aspinall doesn't normally dress like this. When was the last time you seen Tom Aspinall in a gold chain? Right? So far Eddie Hearn is doing quite a good job of of really, putting him in together. He says, yeah, already canopy, Dagestani handcuff. It says, remember the time my brother Khabib took no, he did not, brother. This is lie. You lie, okay? He say, you give me location now, okay? Why you fight Bus, brother? You don't need to fight Bus. You fight Bus, I'm here. Why you need to fight Bus? He's not what you need to do, okay? This is lie. This is lie, brother. This never happened. Okay, back to Aspinall and these Eddie Hearn guy, okay? Back to these harami people. Okay, let's go.
Do my thing.
And the questions will come from the media. Obviously, Eddie, I think at first people thought Tom Aspinall's now your latest heavyweight hope in the world of boxing. But in terms of the deals and, of course, with Dana White and the UFC, how is that all going to work with yourself behind the scenes?
Oh, look, he's under contract to the UFC, and that's not expected to change. I mean, we know that. I know there's been made a lot of kind of the back and forths in the last couple of days. But, as Dana said last night, we've generally got a good relationship. I know there's a back and forward on the boxing, but that's going to pass and blow over. I think that, all athletes need to be represented in the right way, especially MMA fighters and UFC fighters. And that's coming from a rights holder. That's coming from an event promoter who understands, as I said, the revenue streams, the money in the pot. And, it's quite ironic because I deal with a lot of pains in the arses in boxing who are managers. And it's funny now to move into that world myself. We won't be doing it in boxing, but we will be doing it in MMA, and we will be doing it in other sports and other entertainment assets as well. The phone hasn't stopped since yesterday. I mean, we've had over a dozen MMA fighters who have come on to us saying, can we talk?
Brother, if it's time for you to break your fast, you must do it now. In UK, it is sundown right now. You must go hit love, okay?
How's this going to work? And it's going to be really interesting moving forward who we choose to work with. But we have, as I said, the coup de grace, as far as I'm concerned, in MMA, and that's Tom Aspinall, a Brit, from the Northwest, who is, like I say, the people's champion, and now he can get what he deserves to go to the next level.
And is it not just sports?
And by the way, just so you guys know, Tom Aspinall is also a Manchester City fan, just like your boy. I'm a Manchester City fan. Come get your Manchester City jersey right down on the section below of the description so you can help me get some commissions, or if not, drop some super chats, however you would like to help the cause of the channel. Shout out to you. He says, do you think Eddie Hearn will get Aspinall more money since he sees and comes from the boxing money? Yeah, not very nice of you to say, F Man City. How about this? F Arsenal. How about that, right? You know what I mean? No, I'm kidding. He says, brother, Tom is friends with your enemy guru. Yes, this is enemy guy. This is enemy guy. He friends with this, MMA guru shit. So, okay, he's bad guy. But he's good guy. He just needs to stop hanging with MMA guru, these bullshit guy, these guy. I don't think that look, Tom is already in contract, but what you mean when he gets him money, I think through commercial value outside, right? Don't be surprised if he gets Tom, I don't know, like modeling gigs for like Ray-Ban sunglasses or something like that, right? Which will be lucrative for him outside of the cage, and I think that is what he is going to do. Dagestani Handcuff says, Arman check Guru's wrestling. Turns out he have none. Hey, brother, your wrestling zero. Okay? All I had to do, grab your head like this, snap down, and then you'll go down easy. Easy, like a little stupid boy from Welsh. Okay? Stupid Welsh boy, you.
Stars as well, though, that you're looking at.
That's why I called it Matchroom Talent Agency, because as the strapline says, which apparently we nicked off Tom as well, ordinary people, extraordinary talent. And it's not just limited to the world of sport. It's people who we feel we can build into stars, which is something we've been doing over many decades.
When can we expect to see you back in the cage, Tom? What is the latest on that timeline?
Like Eddie said, I've had multiple surgeries, so things do have to be right for me physically as well. So just when I'm under the doctor's, whatever he says at the minute. So I'm back in the gym now doing a bit of training, and yeah, just the full focusing now, just coming back and doing my thing.
I guess how nice is it for you? We just touched on it earlier, but just to have this added level of security that just allows you to just concentrate on what you do best, which is, of course, in the cage, must feel nice as well.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to focus on my fighting. You know what I mean? Eddie and Matchroom can take care of that stuff. Like we just spoke about, I've had a small team for a long time in terms of media and commercial and stuff, and I just want to expand on that and grow that and have a more powerful voice on my team than what I've had before.
I do have to ask you a bit of a tricky question as we're up here live on the stage. Dana White has spoke about it this week, a 4-round boxing contest between Eddie Hearn and Dana White. Who are you picking?
Well, what do you think?
Eddie's got the size.
I think Eddie's got the size on
He
it.
said to me, if you get beat in there, the deal's over.
I might have to go with someone else, mate. If Eddie
I would like to officially appoint Andy Aspinall as my trainer. Boxing-wise, yes. If we do a move on the ground, I know he's got me covered on that. But yeah, the big problem is I've seen Dana White spy. He ain't bad. But I told Tom this. He said, you couldn't lose that fight. So I'll say.
Yeah, I think you've got the size, but I think Dana's got the pedigree. Yeah.
Okay, so I think they are quite serious about getting this fight going, right? I mean, we just played the Pierce Morgan interview. They said that Dana White's down. It sounds like Eddie Hearn is down. He just needs a proper trainer, maybe Tom Aspinall's dad. I mean, that's great, man. That's great. Okay, maybe we're heading into something here into that, right? Dagestani Handcuff says, PSG, brother. Only guy in PSG good is Hakimi. Everyone else is stupid. Everybody's stupid guy in PSG. Hakimi good, brother. He's Muslim, brother, and he's Arab, and he's good guy, yes. He said, Dagestani, how have you not seen Guru's training? Oh yeah, he's seen it. Yeah, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the Arman Sarukian wrestling session that they did.
Maybe we'll go with that. Final word in closing from you, Tom, just before we do open the room to the media. Just I guess as you just touched on earlier, just over the moon to get this over the line and the start of an exciting chapter.
Yeah, me and anyone who's followed my career knows how close me and my dad are. My dad is my manager, he's my trainer, he has been from the beginning and stuff. We were saying hopefully this will be the start where other MMA fighters can look at this and be like, shit, look what he's doing, look at the money that he's getting, look at the opportunity that he's getting with Matchroom and Eddie and stuff like that. Like, I want to be a bit of a trailblazer for MMA fighters who can make a lot of money and be successful outside the octagon as well as inside, because a lot of these guys, you know, they're bitching and complaining privately, publicly about the money that we get paid. But listen, that's what we signed up for. So there are other opportunities out there for fighters, and, you know, it's out there for the taking for all of us.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I believe we are going to open the floor now to the media. So over to you guys, one at a time.
Tom, down here to your left. How you doing? What was your reaction when Eddie and Matchroom broached you with this? Was it a bit of shock or a bit of excitement? Tell me what the initial thoughts were.
I was excited by it. I didn't really know Eddie like, I've met him a couple of times before, but I didn't know him personally. But I've seen him from afar, and I liked the way that him and Frank operate and stuff anyway. I felt like we'd get on. And when we met, I felt like we got on instantly. I feel like we're all on the same page, and I was excited about it.
And has Eddie's commercial navigation of, say, Anthony Joshua and the success that he's gotten, it obviously helped get the Under Armour deal and Lucozade and things like that. Were those primary factors in you deciding to go with him?
Yeah, of course. Like, as athletes in any sport, we've got a short window of opportunity that we can make a lot of money. And with what's gone on with my career and my recent injuries and stuff, I want to make as much money as possible. I want to set up my family for generations, and that's what I'm looking to do with this.
And we haven't been hearing from you that much over the last few months, but mentally...
All right, so I got to tell you, right, I think that is a great lucrative opportunity for Tom Aspinall, right? Also considering the fact that, yes, Eddie Hearn has had a tremendous experience building Anthony Joshua up. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, right? Anthony Joshua, before he went to Eddie Hearn, okay, before he went to Eddie Hearn, he was a bit of a quiet, meek personality, didn't really talk as much, was a bit shy, right? I think that's the best way to kind of describe him, right? He was a bit of a shy personality of some sort. And you got to think, being with Eddie Hearn may have changed that a little bit, right? Gave him a little bit more confidence, gave him a little bit more of an understanding on how to market himself. I mean, look at Anthony Joshua, the type of like, notoriety that Anthony Joshua has across the world is just, absolutely amazing, right? And that started from somewhere. That came from Eddie Hearn, okay? That came from the genius mind of Eddie Hearn, and as a result, this is where Anthony Joshua is at right now. One of the most lucrative fighters in the world in terms of commercial value, right? They mention Under Armour. They mention all these TV deals that Anthony Joshua has done before, right? I mean, he did content with Bear Grylls, right? Bear Grylls is an icon of British TV. He was a former Special Forces guy. Obviously did these TV shows where he was doing adventures around the world, and him and Anthony Joshua were training together, doing adventures across the world, running through jungles. So this is great, right? And then, on top of that, Anthony Joshua had met Prince Charles, and Prince Charles knighted him. And you got to think, where did all of that come from? Could all of that have came from the mind of Eddie Hearn? Perhaps so. Right? And that's great right there. No, I'm not going to do a backflip. I'm busy right now.
How has the recovery been? Because obviously physically is one thing, but mentally it's a complete different thing.
It's been a really tough time for me. I'm not going to sit up here and lie. It's been fucking tough, man. Like, it's been hard to be in the position that I've been in, and not everyone, but a lot of people thinking what they think about me. It's been tough, but I'm obviously looking to come back from that and do good things.
Eddie, obviously Tom's already UFC heavyweight champion. What kind of new opportunities can Matchroom Talent Agency provide to Tom?
Well, so many across the commercial world. I mean, look, Andy has dealt...
And if you think about it, that actually makes it easier for Eddie Hearn to do that, right? But if he wasn't with Eddie Hearn, it would still be harder for Tom Aspinall, if that makes any sense.
With the UFC for many, many years, we'll set across that with him, and we'll help, plan out the future in that respect as well. But away from the octagon, commercially, we need to drive value with partners that already exist. We need to make sure that we build the Tom Aspinall brand further in this country and particularly globally as well. We need to look at broadcast relationships. We need to, I believe he's going to be a great pundit as well. He's going to be the pundit on the upcoming Callum Smith show in Liverpool for DAZN. He knows his boxing. I think he speaks extremely well.
That is awesome. That's actually a good idea right there.
All kinds of opportunities. They've got an amazing team across social. His YouTube channel is already firing really well, doing some big numbers as well. There's a lot that we can add. The key is to drive his value, to bring in revenue, like I said, away from the octagon.
No, brother. Hate love is not, I'm not hate love. I am Khairi Abu El-Kheer, okay? MMA, okay? Hate love is someone else. He is just moderator. You don't, you can subscribe to him, but you subscribe to me as well. He's my channel, please. And also, please tell everybody in Dagestan to subscribe to my channel, please, okay? He says, question, I remember Khamzat dog walking Sean in sparring. Sean even admitted that he never stood a chance. Where is Sean's confidence coming from? I can't find what happened to make him think that he can win. Sean has this propensity to go after guys that he knows he's afraid of, right? He's sparred with Francis Ngannou. It's just his MO. And also he knows that it would be big money pay for him. That's just really what it is. By the end of the day. Okay, thank you so much, Dagestani Handcuff. So yeah, that's just really what it is by the end of the day, right? He knows that Khamzat is a payday, but it's a payday that he knows he can lose. One of them things, right? When you're a fighter at a certain level, you kind of learn your place in the pecking order, and you kind of know the guys that you can win off of and guys that you can make money off of, and sometimes those two things don't intertwine together in that order.
But also, as we reach this stage in his career, look at those fight opportunities. We know that situation with the UFC, whether that gets extended, however long that lasts, there's other opportunities away from that. But we know the contractual position at the moment, and we respect that. So we work within our parameters, but making sure that we just drive his value all around and give him great advice across the board.
Hi, Tom. You mentioned other opportunities there. Do you have any ambitions in boxing or another combat sport?
I knew as soon as I signed with Eddie and Matchroom that this is going to be the question that people are asking. Tom's going to boxing, and that isn't my intention at the moment at all. Maybe before I finish my career, maybe, but at the moment, MMA is where I'm at.
I hate.
He still has a lot of unfinished business in MMA, right? Tom Aspinall does, right? So he has to attend to those first before he can go into boxing. And right now, I just think that he's too well-rounded to waste his time in boxing when he can really express a lot of his prowess in the MMA world. Now look at Darren Till, for example, right? His last MMA fight was against Dricus du Plessis, which exposed a lot of the weaknesses in his game, maybe because of indicative of the injuries that he has going on. Okay, that's one thing. But Tom Aspinall, on the other hand, he still needs to continue doing MMA, just as Darren Till rightfully jumped right into boxing, because it is a skill set that, by the way, he can really thrive off of in that sport. Not to say that Tom isn't, but Tom is just so well-rounded that for him to leave MMA right now would be, sort of a waste of time for him. So Dagestani Handcuff says, Khamzat have better cardio now. Sean can't break him. True, and especially since he's training with that guy that trained with TJ Dillashaw, right? The guy was the top mathematician during the George Bush era. George Bush hired him as the top mathematician of America during George Bush's presidential run. I want you to put that in perspective, right? So the math ain't mathing up. Sean's not going to win. Khamzat trains with top European wrestlers, top Russian wrestlers, top American wrestlers, and then top MMA fighters such as Arman Sarukin. You're not beating this guy. Not anytime soon. No chance in heck whatsoever.
Eddie, with Matchroom Talent Agency, is it just going to be the creme de la creme and the top, or will it be emerging talent as well?
Yeah, I think we're going to really take our time. I think I want to work with special people, like we said, special people, special talents. people that are at the top of their sport, but that doesn't mean they're at the top of their sport now. You know, and I think we're going to be looking really diversely across the board. And of course,
I'll tell you what's interesting about that statement that Eddie Hearn made, right? It really sounds exactly what Dana White is doing right now with boxing. He said in the Piers Morgan interview, you know what, I'm not here to take Usyk or the big names that are already established. We want to take some prospects or guys that are heading into a top trajectory. And Eddie Hearn is trying to do the same thing. And it's crazy how they both kind of mirror each other in that end.
Saw all of the big sort of profile and media coverage across the football agency of Anthony Joshua. I spoke to him yesterday, and that is an extension of this. So you're going to see quite a big move from us in the football market as well. But yeah, of course, initially we want to take on the people who are at the top of the respected sport and profession, but also look at those coming through and start the journey with them as well.
Spoke there a minute ago about the fact that loads of UFC fighters have reached out already and that they're interested in coming on board. And again, talking about footballers there, but have you signed deals with other athletes now, or like how many have you signed and when would you be looking to release them if so?
I think right as we sit now with the inception of the company about 24 hours ago, Tom Aspinall is the sole member of the Matchroom Talent Agency. But over the last couple of months and years, we've had so many people asking us to represent them, but we've never actually been in the space. As you know, in boxing, I mean, it's a complete conflict of interest to be a manager and a promoter. And that's not something we're going to be doing in the boxing space. Commercially, there are different conversations there with AJ and stuff like that, but sitting across fight contracts and stuff like that is not something that we'll be involved with. So right now, Tom Aspinall is the king of the crop in terms of the Matchroom Talent Agency. But now, as I've said, in this, 14, 15-hour window, we've had a lot of approaches from all kinds of different talent, but particularly in the MMA space, because I think there is really a lack of representation in that space that I think is really impartial. I think there's a lot of managers within the space who have an alignment with organisations, but we're bringing something completely different, which is, we understand the organisations because we are one in boxing and in other sports, but we also understand the value of the fighter and the athlete, and we understand the numbers inside out. See, that's the key. Whenever you talk to a boxing manager, boxing's very transparent. And we don't mind it being transparent because actually we're extremely fair with the fighters. So ultimately, every manager knows how much money is in the pot for every show. And I know how much is in the pot for every show there. And I also know how much is in the pot in MMA. So that's something that I think will evolve over time. And as new contracts evolve and new fighters make their way through that system.
Congratulations, Tom. Congratulations, Eddie. Question for you, Tom. Eddie's mentioned multiple times during this conference so far that he will get you what you deserve. What is it that you feel like you do deserve?
I mean, that's a good question, mate. I like that. As I said before, I think that whether it be publicly or privately, a lot of MMA fighters, UFC champions, they like to complain about the money that we're getting paid. But that's the contract that we all signed. We're not going to get more than that. I've accepted that. And I want to make as much money outside of the octagon as I possibly can. I think commercially there's a lot to be done. For my profile, I think financially there's my ceiling's a lot higher than what I'm getting paid at the moment, and I want to explore as much as that as possible.
Tom, I know you briefly touched on it then, but we've seen Dana come in and he's paying boxers a lot more than in the UFC. Did that bother you at first at all?
I mean, I think it's bothered everybody. I think if one guy's getting paid 15 million and the other guy's getting 15 grand, I think that's a big difference, mate. Which is part of the reason that I want to explore other options.
Is part of...
Now, how interesting is that, right? Conor Ben explores his own options. Here's Tom Aspinall exploring his options as well.
Or other options for when you do negotiate. You can say, look, earning X amount.
And by the way, both on the opposite sides of their spectrum.
Outside the ring, maybe I should be earning a bit more in the ring. Well, in the octagon, sorry.
Well, yeah. I'm aware that Eddie and Matchroom are our house organisation. They'll be working, advising my dad, who is my manager. He has been my manager from the beginning. And I'm sure they'll be getting the point across well for how things stand financially in the future.
Thank you.
Hello. Good to see everyone. Thank you. Tom, this one for you. Sort of piggybacking off that, we've seen, obviously, with Conor Benn getting what he's reported to be getting from Zuffa. We've seen Michael Venom Page come out recently. And
shout out to Orona in the chat. Much love.
Almost sort of piggyback off that and say about how he thinks UFC fighters should be also getting higher purses. Do you expect more UFC fighters to be coming out talking about the fact that Zuffa's purses are more inflated than the UFC?
I don't know. Like, everyone can talk about it as much as they want, but what's talking going to do? People have got to start exploring their options and really making a stand for what they believe in, I think. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I know that talking on interviews isn't really going to do much. So hopefully, I'm here, like, I know me personally, every time I'm going in there, I'm risking my health. That's part of combat sports. And I want to be compensated for that as much as I possibly can.
Shout out to Ivan the Great. He says, Charles Oliveira about to put a master class this weekend. Just wait and see. Well, I kind of disagree, and I go with the other side on that one. But we'll see, man. Hopefully you're here tomorrow for the reaction to the fight. I will be here to react to the fight. So we will come and see tomorrow together. And let's compare and contrast what our picks are. So, yeah, let's go with that.
If you or a loved one have experienced sexual abuse in one of more than 60 youth facilities in California,
you can shout.
Mate, I'm just looking forward to the big fight. Eddie versus Dana. I think it's going to be a great matchup. I think it's one that's going to get the fans excited and stuff. No, I don't know. I've got a great team behind me. I'm not worried about anything, to be honest. I think it's all going to work out for the best.
I'll just add to that, Deck, as well, because when we did this, of course, I'm not going to lie, there was, we was looking to make this move, but also having spoken to Tom and looking at the current climate, I knew that it was a move that would create 50 times the noise right now. You have to remember, the first conversation that me and Tom Aspinall had was a week ago, something like that. And then Wednesday was the first time we ever met in person properly. And it all got done very quickly. And because of what's happening at the moment, of course, it's a much bigger story. There's a much bigger buzz. There's plenty more hype. And all of a sudden, within 12 hours, Tom Aspinall is a much bigger star than he's ever been before, right? So that's job done. But we're actually using that as a benefit. But I think the sizes of the organisation and the smartness of the organisation.
Ivan the Great says Charles is going to take him down, sub him in 2 rounds, and people will forget how elite Charles really is. It's hard to take Max Holloway down, though.
Will also lend itself to we come in peace. This isn't about me sitting up here saying what Tom's earning's a joke. He needs to be on this. We're not fighting for the UFC. We want this. Not at all. We'll calmly and as a team work through the process of what we're doing with Tom's career. We also understand and respect the contract that's in place and the contracts that's been signed. So again, you're not, I know some people will be screaming and shouting insults. This is not the game. The game is we're a professional agency that deals with the event, the rights holders in a professional manner. But we also battle fiercely for our clients. And we will be doing that with Tom as well. No, I mean, if it does make life difficult for Tom, what kind of organisation are they? What, you're going to make life difficult for Tom because he's signed with a manager? I mean, ultimately, we're probably going to be a lot easier to deal with than a lot of the managers he has to deal with. You know, but
Eddie Hearn is right about that. He will be a lot easier to deal with than the other managers because right now, the only person that he's managing is Tom Aspinall. You look at all these other managers, no names mentioned, they are like brokers, right? They are dealing with multiple fighters, and they kind of use the fighters as a leverage against the UFC, or sometimes work with the UFC to sometimes even lowball these fighters into smaller deals. Not with Eddie Hearn, right? He's going to enhance the profile of Tom Aspinall and in turn get him more sponsorships, get him more recognition, and not only that, also maybe even get him more money once his contract is up, whether that's with the UFC or with someone else, or maybe get a better contract in the UFC through the process of what Matchroom Talent Agency is trying to do.
Tom was in a position where he needed representation at a high level and respect and a voice to be heard. And we tick every one of those boxes.
Hello, you guys. Well, first of all, congratulations in putting all of this together. I just want to talk to you, Eddie, in particular, in regards to this whole venture, really diversifying in a new market. I just want to talk to you and ask you, with all the experience that you've had in boxing and in other sports, what has been the one thing that you've learned throughout all that time in boxing or in other sports that you've dealt with, and how you're going to look to implement some of the lessons that you've learned into this new venture?
Well, I think understanding how to build the brand of an athlete, I think is something. Don't forget, our job is to create and spin a narrative of a story.
Ivan the Great says, Tom definitely leaving the UFC. UFC after his contract, don't blame him. UFC has been completely disrespectful with him, the whole eye poke into John Jones situation. Yeah, I agree. But I think the lucrative deals that Eddie Hearn can get with Tom Aspinall, right? Let's say the Under Armour that he got for Anthony Joshua, maybe he can get a deal with Nike. That is only predicated on Tom Aspinall being in the UFC. Now, the UFC may not pay him a lot, but let's say Nike can pay him a lot. And if he has Eddie Hearn and the UFC, he can get a Nike deal. You understand what I'm saying? So maybe he doesn't need to leave the UFC, but the UFC is still going to play hardball with him. But at the same time, Eddie's job is to build his profile and build the marketability and enhance the price market value for Tom Aspinall as an athlete. Hate Love says, Ivan, some very good points you make there also. Jones cheating. Yes.
Storyline around a fighter or a fight. And we've done that for years and years and years across snooker, across darts, across boxing, you know, and in many other sports as well. So I think we know how to build a brand is the first thing. We also understand, as I said earlier, all of the relationships with broadcasters.
You are right about that, Ivan the Great, right? But it doesn't seem that Tom's focus is in boxing right now. And again, I told you, the reason why it would be kind of hard, far-fetched for Tom to get into boxing right now is because he is so well-rounded in MMA that I don't think that he wants to waste that particular talent just to, you know, limit his fighting style.
With arenas, with gates, you know, with sponsors, we know everything about the industry across every level. So when we're having conversations with those rights holders, you know, and UFC would be an example, I know exactly what's in the pot. And I know what we're paying out of our pot. So why aren't you paying the same out of your pot? You know what I mean? It's a really interesting storyline and dynamic. Where all of a sudden we're going...
It sounds like Eddie Hearn is about to open up a can of worms here from what it seems like, you know, troublemaker, you know, type of status Eddie Hearn has going on here. Ivan the Great says, Aspinall dad has said before that he doesn't want Tom to extend his contract, but we'll see. Right, and I think that he did also suggest boxing, but hey, listen, the world is his oysters with Matchroom Talent Agency here, right?
From promoter to manager. in another sport, but also in fight sports. And let's be honest, MMA and boxing are very similar in that respect. The revenue streams are all the same. Those key revenue streams are broadcast revenue, gate receipts, and sponsorship. They're the three pillars of revenue that MMA events and boxing events all stand consistently alongside. So we've got to fight the corner of our clients when we know what's in the pot, and it just seems to be a huge discrepancy between the two sports, yet the same model.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 40.
For Tom, it's looking likely that Alex Pereira will be moving up to heavyweight to fight John Jones at the White House. Firstly, what do you make of Alex Pereira moving into the division? And secondly, what is your opinion on that fight should it take place?
I think Alex Pereira is a generational talent. I think he's one of the best UFC fighters that the UFC's ever seen, to be honest with you. I think he's fantastic, and I think it's a very interesting fight. I think everybody who's a UFC fan will be tuning in. I think it's a great fight.
All done? Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We are going to invite Eddie and Tom to the front of the stage now for the customary handshake photo. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for your questions. Start of a new era.
Ivan the Great says if he knocks out Gunn and defends the belt against another blob that goes directly into boxing for a payday, that would be definitely the move. Hate Love says if he's going to get Tom paid in full, it's Eddie. If anybody's going to get him paid in full, it's Eddie. He said that man is so well connected that Tom, the man, he's so well connected, he and Tom, whatever, they will be paid in full. Okay, yes, correct on that. All right, guys, and with that in mind, I'd like to give everybody a thank you for tapping into this live stream. Wanted to come in here and give you guys a reaction to this press conference, and that concludes our press conference, which also concludes our live stream today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one. Maybe tomorrow, maybe today. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it pans out. But thank you to everyone that's coming in here, supporting the channel, giving the likes, giving the views, and all the above. So once again, don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. I will see you in the next one. One more comment, and I'm going to go. Ivan the Great says, my thing is that Eddie Hearn also knows money is in boxing. Correct. He also knows that money is in boxing. At the same time, he also knows that Tom Aspinall can also be very lucrative in other commercial means outside of MMA, right? Just getting sponsorships and things of that nature, right? I think ultimately that is what all of this is about. Getting Tom Aspinall the profile that he needs outside of the cage. Now, boxing, that is still an option, obviously. He's with Matchroom. But the main focus is MMA for Tom Aspinall right now. But more importantly, the main focus is getting healthy, and then afterwards staying healthy while staying in tip-top shape, getting ready to defend his title or whatever circumstances may come of his title status. All right, take care. Salam alaikum to you, hate, love, and everybody across the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. And also, check on the description below. I got Manchester City jerseys, Sacramento Kings jerseys, UFC gloves, and Atlanta Braves cap right on the bottom for all the sports gear that you need. It helps me with my commission in this YouTube revenue. So please help a brother out if you can, please. It would really mean a lot, especially if you're a Manchester City fan. If you're not a Manchester City fan, you know somebody that is. I'm sure that would be a great gift to them, especially for the upcoming Eid. Because in Eid and in Ramadan, I'm sure we give gifts to each other as well, right? It's just that we don't celebrate Christmas in that same fashion. But on any regard, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys in the next one. Inshallah.